Chapter 175. Qin Haodong drove the car back and Qi Weiner sat in the passenger seat with the little fellow in her arms. In the night, she looked at the man driving next to her, and then looked at the little fellow in her arms. A strange feeling rose in her heart. During these years of illness, she spent most of her time hiding in the house alone. Like ordinary girls, she also fantasized about finding a handsome boyfriend, wearing a beautiful wedding dress and having a lovely baby. But at that time she had been living a life that was neither human nor ghost. All of this could only exist in her imagination. Now she finally became a normal person, and everything in front of her was similar to her dream. Unfortunately, her daughter was not hers, and her man was not hers yet. Just as Qi Weiner was immersed in her fantasy, the little fellow suddenly asked in a childish voice, "Auntie Weiner, do you like my papa?" No. Qi Weiner came to her senses and a little panic flashed on her face. Auntie Weiner is lying. I can see it. You look at Papa the same way as Mama. The little fellow said, "Auntie Weiner, why don't you be my Mama?" Qin Haodong smiled slightly. His good daughter began to find a wife for him again. Qi Weiner glanced at Qin Haodong with a complicated expression. When she didn't know how to answer, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the car and stood in the middle of the road. It was an old Taoist who seemed to be in his 60s or 70s. He had a big beard and eyebrows, wore a gray Taoist robe and carried a sword on his back. He looked like an immortal, and his costume was not much different from that of the martial arts films. Because the old Taoist appeared so suddenly, Qin Haodong hurriedly stepped on the brake. In a harsh braking sound, the Honda just stopped close to the old Taoist's legs. Although a traffic accident was avoided, Qin Haodong was still very angry. He rolled down the window and shouted, "Are you shooting or looking for death?" The old Taoist suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Qin Haodong. Although the road was extremely remote and there were no street lights, Qin Haodong and Qi Weiner still keenly felt a flash of light in the old Taoist's eyes. Before they could react, the old Taoist suddenly kicked out. This kick happened to kick the front cover of the Honda. With a loud bang, the front of the Honda collapsed from the kick, and then the whole car flew 7 or 8 meters, flipped a few times and landed on the side of the hill. Both Qin Haodong and Qi Weiner were dizzy from the fall. Fortunately, they were protected by their cultivation, so they were not hurt too much. The little fellow was always tightly protected in Qi Weiner's arms, so she was also unscathed. Not good, we've encountered an enemy. At this time, Qin Haodong realized that the appearance of the old Taoist was not a coincidence. He was coming for them. He hurriedly kicked open the deformed door and then suddenly jumped out. Qi Weiner also raised her hand to tear open the car door and climbed out with the little fellow. Outside the car, the old priest kicked the Honda car away and walked over slowly. "Who are you?" Qin Haodong asked. His expression was unprecedentedly dignified. With the strength of the spirit, he could see through the cultivation of warriors at a higher level than himself. The old Taoist in front of him had reached the peak of the 9th level of inner power. He was only one step away from the supreme power realm. No wonder he could kick the car away. His current cultivation had not broken through to the inner power realm. It was definitely not a good thing to face such a powerful enemy. Even if he joined forces with Qi Weiner, they would never be able to compete with the old Taoist. The old Taoist walked to the front of the two people. He was not in a hurry to fight. He said, "I'm Dao Tong. Dao Tong, is there any conflict between us?" Qin Haodong asked. Dao Tong said with killing intent, "Boy, the ghost slave I spent 10 years to cultivate was destroyed by you. Do you think there is any conflict between us?" As soon as he said this, Qin Haodong and Qi Weiner were shocked. It turned out that the old Taoist was the evil cultivator who planted the ghost fetus. It was true that one could not judge a book by its cover. The old Taoist looked like a master, but he practiced such evil spells. Now that they knew the identity of the old Taoist, they knew that today's fight to the death was inevitable. Qi Weiner sent the little fellow to Qin Haodong and said to the old Taoist with killing intent, "Ox nose, is it the ghost fetus you planted in me?" The old Taoist didn't answer Qi Weiner's question, but glanced at her from head to toe. Then he clicked his tongue and said, "Perfect, it's really perfect. A perfect ghost slave like you is much better than what I expected. It's your honor to be my ghost slave. Now go back with me. I promise you can break through the supreme power realm within 3 years. Why, you're the ghost slave. Your whole family are ghost slaves. Today I'll fight with you." Qi Weiner had lived a ghost life for 10 years. At this time she was full of deep hatred for the old Taoist. She shouted and rushed to the old Taoist. At the same time, Qin Haodong took out his mobile phone from his pocket and put it in the little fellow's hand. He said eagerly, "Tang Tang, run quickly and call Mom." "Papa, why should I run?" The little fellow asked with a puzzled face. This old Taoist is a very powerful bad guy. You must not be caught by him. Papa and Auntie Wan are going to deal with him. Run quickly. Qin Haodong did not have any hope of defeating the old Taoist. He knew very well how big the gap between the 9th level of overt power and the 9th level of covert power was. There was no hope of escape, let alone victory. So he stayed himself to buy time for the little fellow to escape. But Papa, aren't you specialized in beating bad guys? Qin Haodong had left an omnipotent impression in the little fellow's heart in the past, so she did not feel fear at the moment. This bad guy is very powerful. Run quickly or it will be too late. Qin Haodong knew that time was limited, and he had no time to talk too much with the little fellow. He pushed her back, then turned around and rushed to the old Taoist. If he joined forces with Qi Wan, they might be able to hold on for a while. If they were defeated by the old Taoist one by one, they would die faster. Qi Wan's body was extremely strong, and her hands were sharper than knives, so she did not use any weapons and directly grabbed at the old Taoist's face. At the same time, Qin Haodong rubbed his body from behind the old Taoist and punched him in the back. Although it was the first time for the two people to attack together, they cooperated very well. In the face of the fierce offensive of the two people, the old Taoist showed a touch of disdain at the corner of his mouth. How dare a grain of rice shine? He flicked his left sleeve gently and directly met Qi Wan's fierce claws. Under the infusion of genuine qi, the soft sleeve was as hard as a steel plate, and it abruptly blocked Qi Wan's claw that could break gold and stone. Then he stretched out his right hand and slapped Qin Wan's lower abdomen, which directly sent her flying. The old Taoist's movement seemed light, but it was amazingly fast. After all this was done, he punched back just to meet Qin Haodong's fist. With a bang, the two fists met. The old Taoist's body did not move, but Qin Haodong, like a fired cannonball, was shocked to fly out more than 10 meters, and the genuine qi in his body was shattered. After landing, his legs went soft and he flopped to the ground. No matter how hard the two people fought, the gap in cultivation was too big. The old Taoist was almost a half-step to the supreme power realm, which was not something the two people could compete with. The old Taoist didn't look at Qin Haodong again, but looked at Qi Wan and nodded with satisfaction. Good, you are worthy of being the ghost fetus selected by the old Taoist. The ghost slave refined is really extraordinary. You can even bear the palm of the old Taoist with 30% of my power. Your cultivation is also very fast. You will soon enter the 2nd level of covert power. Qin Haodong got up from the ground and glanced around. He did not see the shadow of the little fellow, so he was relieved. No matter what happened to him, as long as the little fellow was fine. The old Taoist said to Qi Wan, don't try to resist anymore. Your current cultivation is still too low. Go back with the old Taoist quickly. When the best ghost slave is refined, even the strong of the supreme power realm will run away when they see you. Bah! I will not go back with you to be a walking dead. Qi Wan said angrily, you dare to attack me. Aren't you afraid of the revenge of our Qi family? The old Taoist sneered and said, the Qi family is really strong and there are many masters of the supreme power realm, but what can they do? I am an idle person. Where can they find me? Moreover, as long as I refine you into the best ghost slave, even if you are an expert in the supreme power realm, you can only be defeated by me, Dao Tong. Damn you, I will fight with you. Seeing that she couldn't scare the old Taoist even with her family background, Qi Wan could only choose to fight hard. She shouted and rushed to the old Taoist again. This time she only attacked and did not defend. She used a desperate move. Qin Haodong took out a dagger and joined the fight. However, the gap between their cultivation was too big. Neither of them could stand 3 moves. Qi Wan was hit by the old Taoist Tao Tong and fell to the ground, vomiting blood. Qin Haodong was also shocked by the palm again. You little ant, now you know how powerful I am. The old Taoist looked at Qin Haodong with a sneer and said, boy, you dare to ruin my good plan. Now I will send you to hell. After that, the old Taoist's figure flashed, turned into a flash of lightning and came to Qin Haodong, and suddenly punched Qin Haodong in the chest. This punch had used 100% of Tao Tong's strength, and the speed was even faster. Qin Haodong had no time to respond. He felt like his chest was hit by a train and a huge force came to him. If he had resisted it with his cultivation alone, this punch would have been enough to shatter all his internal organs. But at this moment, an invisible force came from his waist and resolved most of Dao Tong's punch, ensuring that his internal organs were not injured. But even so, Qin Haodong's body suddenly flew out, hit a big tree next to him and then fell to the ground. The old Taoist showed a look of surprise. He did not expect that the young man could withstand his full blow, and did not even spit blood. "Boy, you have some skills, but you must die today," Tao Tong said as he stepped to Qin Haodong's side, stepped on his shoulder, and then swung his right fist and hit him hard in the chest again. A muffled bang resounded through the night sky, and the old Taoist's fist hit Qin Haodong's chest firmly. However, it was once again dissolved by the invisible force, and his whole body had been smashed to the ground. Chapter 176. The saddest thing was that he didn't even have the ability to resist. He couldn't run even if he wanted to. He could only wait for the next punch. Sure enough, Tao Tong became more and more surprised. "Boy, let me see how many punches you can take." After that, he used all his strength and raised his fist, ready to hit Qin Haodong's face again. Seeing that Qin Haodong's life was hanging by a thread, Qi Wan'er's eyes were red and she wanted to rush over and fight with Tao Tong. However, she was too injured. After struggling a few times, she could barely stand up, but it was too late to rush over. At this moment, a young figure came out from behind the tree and rushed desperately to the old Taoist. "Bad guy, let go of my papa." It turned out to be the little fellow who rushed over. She did not leave just now but hid behind a tree. Now seeing her dearest papa being pressed to the ground by the old Taoist and beaten fiercely, she no longer cared about anything else and rushed to the old Taoist madly. After seeing her, Qi Wan'er hurriedly cried, "Tang Tang, don't go over, it's dangerous." When Qin Haodong heard the voice of the little fellow, he was shocked and quickly shouted, "Tang Tang, don't come over, run. Papa, I'll help you." If you could see it at this time, the little fellow's childish face had a resolute look, and her eyes flashed with madness. She had already realized that the papa that she had obtained with great difficulty was about to be lost. After practicing Shentian Heart Sutra for more than half a month, coupled with the awakening of Suzaku's sacred body, the little fellow ran at full speed to the extreme. In the blink of an eye, she rushed to the back of the old Taoist. Tao Tong naturally noticed Tang Tang, but he didn't pay attention to such a little fellow. He was ready to continue to attack Qin Haodong, but at this moment, a burning feeling came from behind. The little fellow came behind Tao Tong, opened her mouth, and a yellow flame suddenly shot to Tao Tong. Qin Haodong was now only at the 9th level of overt power, and the seal imposed on the little fellow was very weak. Tang Tang broke through the seal in excitement, and the flame of Suzaku's sacred body immediately sprayed out. The old Taoist never dreamed that such a little child would set fire to himself. He was immediately swallowed by the flames. With a scream, he slapped the little fellow away, and then desperately rolled on the ground, trying to put out the flames on his body. Tang Tang. Seeing that the little fellow was beaten by Tao Tong, Qi Wan'er let out a cry. Qin Haodong jumped up from the ground like crazy and rushed to Tang Tang. Although Tao Tong did not use his full strength, the little fellow was too small. After being hit, it immediately hit a nearby rock like a cannonball. The rock was extremely sharp, and if the little fellow hit it, it would die. Tang Tang. Qin Haodong shouted at the top of his lungs and ran desperately to the little fellow. However, the distance was too far and it was too late to save her. Seeing that the cute little face of the little fellow was getting closer and closer to the rock, Qi Wan'er couldn't bear to see it anymore and fell to the ground. Qin Haodong also stopped, his eyes flashing with madness. Just when both of them were desperate, a dark shadow suddenly flashed from behind the rock and reached out to take the little fellow in his arms. Tang Tang, my Tang Tang. Qin Haodong experienced from despair to surprise. Seeing that the little fellow was saved, he ran to this side and held his daughter in his arms. Tang Tang, are you all right, Tang Tang? Qin Haodong was horrified to find that the little fellow had no movement. He quickly reached out and grabbed Tang Tang's pulse. After a while, he finally felt relieved. It turned out that the little fellow was too emotional and had just used the flame of Suzaku's sacred body, which caused her body to fall into a deep sleep. Fortunately, Suzaku's sacred body had been fully awakened and had a strong defense ability. If it was an ordinary child, it would have been killed by Tao Tong's palm. After confirming that his daughter was safe, Qin Haodong finally calmed down. If something really happened to the little fellow, he would die with Tao Tong at the cost of his body and soul. He turned to look at the dark shadow who had saved the little fellow. It was a very beautiful woman. It was strange that she looked very dignified, but she gave people a feeling of charm. Thank you for saving my daughter, Qin Haodong said to the woman. It's nothing. It's nothing. The woman's voice was very pleasant. Qin Haodong said to the woman, you'd better go or it will be very troublesome. The reason why he didn't run away was that he couldn't leave Qi Wan'er alone, and it was impossible for him to escape from Tao Tong's hands in his current state. But the woman in black was different. She had nothing to do with him and Qi Wan'er, and her cultivation had reached the level of covert power. If she ran now, she would probably escape from Dao Tong's hands. The woman said, "Why run? I can help you. You're no match for him at all," Qin Haodong said, turning his head to look in the direction of Dao Tong. He was shocked at first glance. It turned out that the flame on Dao Tong's body was not the same as the ordinary red flame, but a golden yellow, which looked extremely dazzling in the dark. Ordinary people might not be able to see the difference of the flame, but Qin Haodong knew very well that this was the color of the innate fire. In the cultivation world there were 7 levels of flames. The lowest was naturally the most common mortal fire, and then the innate fire. When the little fellow's Suzaku's sacred body had just awakened yesterday, it was still the mortal fire. He didn't expect it to be promoted to the innate fire so soon. No wonder she fell asleep. It turned out that the level had been upgraded. Although the innate fire was only 1 level higher than the mortal fire, it was countless times more powerful. Not only was it hot, but it couldn't be extinguished by ordinary methods. No wonder Dao Tong hadn't put out the flame on his body for so long. Dao Tong's clothes, hair and beard were all turned to ashes. He also found that the flame on his body was different. No matter how he patted it, it would not be extinguished. But after all, he was an expert infinitely close to the supreme power realm. After calming down, he immediately had a way to deal with it. He took a deep breath and released the genuine qi in his body, making a genuine qi isolation layer between the flame and his skin. With this isolation layer, the innate fire became a rootless fire and soon extinguished itself. But at this time, Dao Tong was also extremely miserable. His bald head turned into a roasted egg and all his clothes were burned clean. But every inch of his skin was burned black, making people feel that he was not exposed. As a strong man at the 9th level of the covert power, Dao Tong had never suffered such grievances. Although the flame outside his body was extinguished at this time, the fire inside his body was burning, and the amazing killing intent soared unprecedentedly. He picked up the sword that had fallen to the ground and pointed to Qin Haodong, the little fellow and the woman beside him. "You all have to die today. Roasted sparrow. You're talking big. Let me see what you can do." The woman in black came here later. She didn't know how powerful Dao Tong was, so she rushed up before Qin Haodong could stop her. When the woman came to Dao Tong, there was already a purple soft sword in her hand. The light of the sword looked extremely gorgeous in the night sky. With a flick of her wrist, the purple soft sword shot to Dao Tong's shoulder like a purple lightning. Obviously, she still had some reservations and didn't kill him immediately. But Dao Tong was now in a state of madness. He had nowhere to vent his anger, so he fiercely slashed the long sword in his hand. When the 2 swords met, there was a crisp sound. The sword in Dao Tong's hand was directly cut in 2 by the purple light. No wonder the woman in black was so confident. It turned out that the soft sword in her hand was a big sword that could cut iron like mud. Dao Tong didn't expect his sword to be cut in 2, but he was an experienced master after all. After a slight surprise, he was calm in the face of danger. He threw away the hilt in his hand and sidestepped the woman's sword. Then he came to the woman in black like a ghost and raised his hand to grab the woman's wrist. The woman had thought that by relying on the power of the purple sword, she could beat Dao Tong back. She didn't expect him to be so powerful. Before she could react, the purple sword in her hand was already in Dao Tong's hand. As Dao Tong grabbed the sword, he slapped the woman in black's chest with his left hand. The woman in black quickly dodged sideways, but her speed was still a little slower than Dao Tong's palm. Although she avoided her chest, she was hit in the shoulder and flew out like a kite with a broken string. Fortunately, Qin Haodong rushed over and reached out to support her, so she didn't fall to the ground. After Dao Tong succeeded in one move, a ferocious look flashed across his face. He shouted to Qin Haodong fiercely, "Boy, take this little beast to hell with you." After that, he waved the purple soft sword in his hand and was about to attack Qin Haodong. Just then someone shouted, "Dao Tong, stop it or I'll die in front of you." Dao Tong turned his head and saw that it was Qi Wan who spoke. At this time she grabbed the dagger that Qin Haodong had just knocked down and pressed it tightly against her neck. Dao Tong sneered and said, "Little girl, are you crazy? You're in cahoots with me. How dare you threaten me with your life?" Qi Wan said, "Don't you want me to be a ghost slave with you? If you let them go, I'll go with you. If you don't let them go, I'll cut off my head now and see how you can become a ghost slave." Seeing that Qi Wan was going to make such a big sacrifice for him, Qin Haodong exclaimed, "Wan, that's absolutely impossible. You know, once you become a ghost slave, you will become a walking corpse for life and never be reincarnated." Qi Wan smiled sadly and said, "Why not? My life was saved by you. If it weren't for you, I would have become a walking corpse long ago. Now I'll give it back to you as a repayment for saving my life." This, Qin Haodong wanted to refute but had nothing to say. Qi Wan suddenly laughed and said, "In fact, I'm very satisfied. Although it's not a long time, I've finally lived a normal life. Wherever I go, people envy my appearance. I've had my period like a normal woman. The only regret is that I haven't tasted love yet. Qin Haodong, you're the first man who walked into my heart after I became a woman. I wanted to pursue you, but unfortunately I don't have the chance now. If there's a next life, I'll marry you and have a lovely daughter like Tang Tang." Speaking of this, she looked cold and said, "Take Tang Tang away, hurry up." Qin Haodong was moved. He didn't expect this girl to love him so deeply that she could become a walking corpse for him. At this moment, Dao Tong cried with a ferocious face, "You want to go? Did I agree? You're all going to die today, none of you will live." "How dare you?" Qi Wan snapped, "Aren't you afraid that I'll cut off my head?" Chapter 177. Qi Wan looked lost. She didn't expect her last trump card to be useless. Qin Haodong said to her, "Let's die together with this ox nose. Do you dare?" "Of course I'm willing to die with you." Qi Wan looked at Qin Haodong with burning eyes, full of affection. Qin Haodong said decisively, "In this case, let's die together with the ox nose." As the reincarnated Emperor Greenwood, he certainly had a final trump card, which was to detonate his spirit. However, his spirit was too powerful. Once it was detonated, no life within 100 meters could survive. Its power was comparable to a small nuclear bomb. The price was also huge. After detonating his spirit, his body and soul would be destroyed, and he would not even have the chance to be reincarnated. Hearing the conversation between the two men, Dao Tong didn't care at all. He stood there and didn't rush to do anything. At this time his mentality was like a cat catching a mouse. He wanted to humiliate the opponent and then kill him so as to eliminate his inner hatred. And in his view, Qin Haodong, who had not even reached the covert power, would not pose a threat to him. Qin Haodong ignored Dao Tong and turned to the woman in black and said, "I'm responsible for entangling this old man. You leave with my daughter." Although his way of self-detonating spirit was powerful, it also did not distinguish between friend and foe. Once detonated, no one could survive, so he wanted the woman in black to leave with the little fellow. Moreover, the woman's left shoulder was injured, which did not have much impact on her escape. He thought that the woman in black came to help because she saw injustice. Now that she had seen Dao Tong's power, she would be happy to leave. After all, no one wanted to die. Unexpectedly, she shook her head and said, "I won't go." Qin Haodong said anxiously, "Why not? If you don't go, everyone will die." The woman in black said, "My purple lightning sword is still in the hands of the old man. I promised Grandpa that if the sword exists, I will die. If I don't get the sword back, I will not leave anyway." Qin Haodong cried, "Are you out of your mind? A broken sword is not as important as a human life." Although this purple soft sword looked good, it was not a magic weapon in Qin Haodong's eyes. "No, I have to get the sword back." The woman in black said stubbornly, "Besides, I can't leave you guys alone." Dao Tong grinned and said, "In that case, you can take this sword with you first." After saying that, she raised her hand, and the purple soft sword turned into a purple light that shot towards the black-clothed woman. The speed of the purple flash sword was so fast that it was too late for Qin Haodong to stop it. Just as the sword was about to pierce through the woman's throat, a big hand suddenly appeared out of thin air. Two rough fingers clamped the tip of the purple flash sword. Qin Haodong was startled. This person appeared too suddenly, and his speed was simply too fast. In addition, Dao Tong's cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th level of covert power. He was able to catch his sword with 2 fingers. Why was his cultivation so terrifying? At this time, everyone's eyes were focused on the owner of the big hand. He was a tall Taoist, but his robe was too ragged, his hair was messy, and he was carrying a big wine gourd on his back. He looked a little crazy. After catching the purple flash sword, the old Taoist reached out and grabbed the hilt. He turned back and handed it to the black-clothed woman. "Little girl, look after your sword this time. Don't lose it again." After looking at the crazy old Taoist, Qin Haodong was shocked again. With his powerful spirit, he could easily see through warriors who were 1 level higher than him, such as Dao Tong, who had reached the 9th level of covert power. But in the face of this crazy old Taoist, he couldn't see anything. There was only one answer. The crazy old Taoist's cultivation had broken through the supreme power realm. After handing over the sword, the crazy old Taoist smiled at Qin Haodong and said, "I'm sorry, little guy. I'm a little late and scared you. Qin Haodong didn't understand what the old Taoist meant. At this time Dao Tong cried, Dao Xian, why are you still alive? Why did you come here to meddle in my business? The crazy old Taoist looked back at Dao Tong and said, Younger brother, why are you still so stubborn after so many years? Can't you see that you have fallen into the devil's way? Dao Tong shouted hoarsely, I don't care. Even if I become a devil, I will become the most powerful devil. Then I will go back and destroy the Qingyi school. The crazy old Taoist sighed and said, Younger brother, come back with me. Reflect on your mistakes and wash away the sins you have committed for so many years. Dao Xian, don't think I'm afraid of you. Today I will fight with you to the death. Dao Tong's words were full of momentum. When others thought he was going to fight, the old Taoist suddenly changed direction and rushed directly to Qi Wan. This guy wanted to grab Qi Wan and escape together. Younger brother, stop. Dao Xian took a gentle step forward. Although it was only one step, he suddenly came to Qi Wan's side and hit Dao Tong with his palm. Dao Tong had no way to dodge, so he could only hit Dao Xian with his palm. With a bang, the violent airflow swept the scene. Dao Xian did not move at all, but Dao Tong flew out more than 10 meters like a broken sack. This scene was a copy of Dao Tong's shaking of Qin Haodong just now, but the roles were reversed. It was Dao Tong who was shaken. As soon as Dao Tong's feet landed on the ground, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Dao Xian's gentle palm had seriously injured him. He raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, pointed to Dao Xian and cried, Your cultivation has improved again. Dao Xian said, Younger brother, your aptitude was originally above me, but unfortunately the devil in your heart is too strong. Don't tell me this. When I become a ghost slave I will destroy the Qingyi school. After Dao Tong finished speaking, his dark body was covered with a cloud of blood mist. The scope of the blood mist was getting larger and larger, and his whole body was directly illuminated. Blood shadow. Younger brother, you have even practiced this kind of strange magic. You really don't repent. Dao Xian said as he stepped out again. He came to Dao Tong with the magic of shrinking the ground into an inch and slapped him hard with his palm. There was a scream, and then the blood mist slowly disappeared, but Dao Tong's figure also disappeared, leaving only a pool of blood in place. Qi Wan stepped forward and asked, Taoist priest, is he dead or has he run away? The crazy old Taoist said, He has run away. I didn't expect younger brother to be so profound that he has even practiced the evil magic of blood shadow. Run away. Qi Wan's face suddenly became ugly. She was a ghost slave made by Dao Tong. As long as Dao Tong was not dead, he would definitely come to her for trouble. As if reading her mind, the crazy old Taoist said, Don't worry. The evil magic of blood shadow will be greatly damaged as long as it is used once. It can't be recovered without 3 or 5 years. Besides, my palm just now was not in vain. Now even if Dao Tong reappears here, he will be no match for you. Hearing the old Taoist's words, everyone was relieved. Otherwise, no one could sleep well with such a powerful enemy eyeing them covetously. Qin Haodong asked, Taoist priest, why do you call him younger brother? What is the origin of this evil old Taoist? It's a long story. In fact, it's all my mistake. Dao Xian sighed and said, Dao Tong used to be my younger brother. At that time, we were all disciples of the Qingyi school. I just entered the school 1 year earlier than him, so I was his older brother. At that time, there were only 2 brothers of the same age, so we were very close. He was very talented in martial arts. Although I entered the school 1 year earlier than him, his cultivation was much faster than mine. I had not reached the 9th level of overt power, but he had broken through to the level of covert power. He was a genius among geniuses in our whole school. It was also because of this that he grew the devil in his heart. He was too eager for quick success and instant benefits. When he was trying to reach the Supreme Power Realm, he not only failed to enter the Supreme Power Realm, but also suffered a great loss of vitality. His cultivation suddenly fell back to the level of overt power realm. Dao Xian sighed again as if feeling sorry for Dao Tong. Then he continued, in fact, if Dao Tong could calm down and practice again, it would not take too long for him to reach the Supreme Power Realm again with his aptitude. Unfortunately, he was too proud and eager for quick success and instant benefits. He was eager to improve his cultivation when his mind was unstable. Finally, he was stuck in the bottleneck of the Supreme Power Realm and could not break through. Although my aptitude was average, I was more steady when I practiced and never impetuous. More than a decade ago, I finally stepped into the Supreme Power Realm. Because of this, Dao Tong, who had been stuck in the Supreme Power Realm, was greatly stimulated and fell into the devil's way from that time. By chance, I found that he secretly practiced the 5 elements ghost refining method, an evil cultivation method. Although the Qingyi school was not famous, it was definitely a decent school. After learning that Dao Tong practiced the evil cultivation method, I did not dare to hide it and reported it to my master. My master was furious and asked me to abolish Dao Tong's cultivation and then drive him out of the school. But I grew up with Dao Tong and always regarded him as my younger brother. How could I have the heart to abolish him? So I made my own decision. Although he was expelled from the Qingyi school, I did not abolish his cultivation, hoping that he could repent. Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "You are wrong. This kind of person has been possessed by the devil. How can he repent so easily?" Yes, I was confused for a moment. I didn't see it as clearly as you. Dao Xian said, "Dao Tong left our Qingyi school. Without the shackles of the rules, he became more unscrupulous. He began to find people to plant evil fetuses, and this little girl was one of the victims. Later, my master was furious when he got the news. He asked me to leave the school to catch Dao Tong. I could not return to the school until I cleaned up the school." Qin Haodong said, "Your master is really confused. He knows that you can't kill Dao Tong, but he still sent you to catch him. How is that possible?" Dao Xian said awkwardly, "Little brother, you are right. In any case, I can't kill Dao Tong. I have caught him twice, but under his bitter begging, I finally let him go. I hope he can turn over a new leaf." Qin Haodong said, "The result is that he didn't change, and it didn't work at all." Dao Xian embarrassedly said, "I have always wanted to capture him back to the sect and imprison him, to make him face the wall and reflect on his wrongdoings, but then he hid somewhere and did not appear for a long time, so I have not been able to find him. This time I found him in Jiangnan and hurried over. It was not convenient to do it in the city, so I wanted to find a suitable opportunity to catch him. I didn't expect that he would run away when I got a pot of wine. When I found him again, it was just now. That jug of wine of yours almost cost us our lives." Facing Dao Xian, Qin Haodong really didn't know what to say for a while. His cultivation was so high, but he was so unreliable. Chapter 178. No. Although Dao Xian's request was somewhat unexpected, Qin Haodong refused without hesitation. Dao Xian really liked the little fellow's aptitude. He thought that Qin Haodong refused because he didn't know his ability, so he quickly said, "Young man, you may not know my cultivation. I have reached the 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm. Your daughter will not suffer a loss if she is my disciple." The 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm. After Dao Xian finished speaking, the woman in black and Qi Wan both showed a shocked look. It should be known that martial arts in Wuxia were declining. Those who could reach the Supreme Power Realm were strong and could even set up their own sections. But this old Taoist had reached the 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm, which was absolutely admirable. Now the old Taoist took the initiative to accept the little fellow as a disciple, which was definitely a blessing from his previous life. In their opinion, Qin Haodong would definitely agree immediately. After all, this was an opportunity that ordinary people couldn't get. Unexpectedly, Qin Haodong still shook his head and said, "No, Tang Tang is still young. I have no intention of letting her apprentice." "Are you kidding?" He was the Emperor Greenwood. Although his cultivation had not yet recovered to its peak state, the cultivation methods and cultivation experience he had mastered were unparalleled. Moreover, the 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm was really nothing in his eyes. When he was in the cultivation world, his servants who guarded the cave and cleaned the house were all cultivators in the gold core stage. Moreover, there was a great difference between cultivation and ordinary martial arts. When a cultivator at the 2nd level of the gold core stage fought against a cultivator at the 2nd level of the Supreme Power Realm, he could definitely beat his opponent to the ground without any strength to fight back. The woman in black and Qi Wan both widened their eyes. If Tang Tang was their daughter, she would definitely agree immediately. But Qin Haodong refused a supreme power without hesitation. They really wondered if he had just been beaten silly by Dao Tong. Dao Xian was also quite surprised and said unwillingly, "Little brother, would you like to think about it again?" Qin Haodong said, "No need to think about it. You'd better solve the problem of Dao Tong first and then we'll discuss it." He also felt that it was against common sense to directly refuse Dao Xian, so he pushed the time to catch Dao Tong. With Dao Xian's indecisive character, he didn't know when he could solve Dao Tong. Dao Xian sighed and said, "That's right. Even if this little girl takes me as her master now, she can't enter the Qingyi school. I'll come to you after I've completely solved Dao Tong and return to the Qingyi school." Qin Haodong didn't say anything more. As long as he was given some time to recover his strength, even if it was only 1/10 of his previous life strength, it would be enough to sweep away all the major sections. At that time, naturally, no one would dare to accept his daughter as an apprentice. Since the matter was settled, Dao Yin floated away, quickly disappearing into the night. Soon there was a roar of motor in the night. Several SUVs stopped on the side of the road. It was Zhang Tiniu who had received Qin Haodong's order. Qin Haodong came to Qi Waner. Thinking of the confession of true feelings in the face of life and death, both of them could not help but show a trace of unnaturalness. Especially Qi Waner, she just thought that she would not be able to survive today, so she told Qin Haodong what was on her mind. Now that the danger had been solved, her white cheeks were so red that it seemed that blood was about to drip out. You go back with Tinia first and I'll see you in a few days. Qin Haodong didn't know how to face this girl. On the one hand, Qi Waner was willing to sacrifice her life for him, and she was even willing to follow Dao Tong to be a ghost slave, which showed her deep love. On the other hand, the earth was not like the cultivation world, where there were too many secular restrictions. He already had Lin Momo and the little fellow, so he naturally had to be careful about emotional problems. Qi Waner responded softly and followed Zhang Tiniu to get in the car and go back together. Qin Haodong turned back to the woman in black and said, "Thank you for saving my daughter. I still don't know your name." "My name is Hu Xiaoxian, you can also call me Xiaoxian." The woman in black said. "Good name." Qin Haodong said, "Miss Hu, where do you live? I'll send you back now and then treat the injury on your arm." Hu Xiaoxian was the little fellow's savior, and Qin Haodong was full of gratitude to her. "I just arrived in Jiangnan province and I haven't found a place to live yet." Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, "Then you come home with me first and treat the injury on your arm." Hu Xiaoxian nodded and followed Qin Haodong to an off-road vehicle left by Zhang Tiniu. Back at Lin's villa, Qin Haodong handed the little fellow to Lin Momo and briefly told her what happened tonight. He told her not to worry, that Tang Tang just fell into a deep sleep and would recover tomorrow. After that, he took Hu Xiaoxian back to his home. After entering the living room and turning on the light, Qin Haodong found that the girl was more beautiful than he had imagined, and there was a kind of coquettish charm from her bones, which was very lovable. Qin Haodong said, "Take off your coat. I want to see your injury." Hu Xiaoxian looked up at him and said, "My left arm was broken by the old Taoist. Help me take off my clothes." There was nothing wrong with this sentence, and Hu Xiaoxian said it very solemnly, but it brought infinite temptation. He calmed his mind, reached out to unbutton Hu Xiaoxian's coat one by one, and then slowly took it off. Hu Xiaoxian had very few clothes inside. After taking off her coat, there was only a pink suspender vest left, which combined with her milk-like delicate skin, which was very attractive. There was a big black handprint on his left shoulder, which was as smooth as water. It seemed that Taoist Dao Tong's palm was really heavy. Qin Haodong reached out to feel Hu Xiaoxian's pulse. The bone of her left arm was indeed broken, but it was not too serious. "Bear with it for a while. It may hurt a little." Qin Haodong reached out and grabbed Hu Xiaoxian's left shoulder. With a click, the broken bone was reconnected, and then he used greenwood genuine qi to help her comb the injured meridians. 2 or 3 minutes later, the black handprint on Hu Xiaoxian's shoulder slowly disappeared. Qin Haodong applied a layer of muscle and bone-breaking ointment to her and said, "Well, don't fight with others for 3 days and don't lift heavy things." Hu Xiaoxian felt a coolness on her shoulder, and then the piercing pain disappeared. She moved her arm and said in surprise, "It's really healed. I haven't seen such magical medical skills. You deserve to be the medical sage." Qin Haodong asked in surprise, "Do you know me?" Hu Xiaoxian put on her coat again and said, "Of course I know you. I'm here to find you." Qin Haodong asked, "Find me? What's the matter?" Hu Xiaoxian smiled slightly. She was full of charm and her smile gave people a feeling of spring. "Did you kill Feng Tianda?" Qin Haodong didn't expect her to ask such a question. He said with a smile, "Miss Hu, you can't talk nonsense. I'm a doctor. I can't save people. How can I do something like killing people?" "Well, it's my fault." Hu Xiaoxian smiled again. "Let me rephrase my question. The video of Feng Tianda's surrender, as well as the video of Fu Haiken and Bai Wenjia's confession in Wufeng County, all have something to do with you, right?" Qin Haodong didn't know what this woman did, so he naturally wouldn't admit it. He said lightly, "Miss Hu, I'm very grateful to you for saving my daughter, but these questions really make me feel inexplicable." Hu Xiaoxian said to herself, the reason why Feng Tianda, Fu Haiken, and Bai Wenjia could voluntarily confess was not that they found their conscience, but that they were confused by a special method. Coincidentally, these people all have a grudge against you, and you are proficient in this method. You have helped the Jiangnan criminal police team to interrogate stubborn criminals several times. You can naturally get a conclusion by connecting these things. Am I right, Dr. Qin? Seeing that the other party had clearly investigated his affairs, it was obvious that she came with a purpose. He asked, "Tell me, what's your purpose?" "Don't worry, I mean you no harm." Hu Shaoxian said charmingly, "You have reached the 9th level of overt power at a young age, and you have the ability to control people's minds. You are a rare talent, so I invite you to join our organization." Qin Haodong looked at Hu Shaoxian and said, "If you want me to join you, you have to tell me what organization you are in advance, right?" Hu Shaoxian's expression changed and she said solemnly, "Have you heard of the Xinyuan Pavilion of Wuxia?" "No." Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "He was just a doctor and didn't know much about this. If he knew that there was such a special department in Wuxia, he would not have used mind bewitching in such a high-profile way. At least he would not have posted the videos of these people's confessions on the internet." Hu Shaoxian said, "The Xinyuan Pavilion is a special department in Wuxia. I come from the Xinyuan department of the Xinyuan Pavilion, and I want you to join the Xinyuan department." After a pause, she said, "The Xinyuan department is responsible for managing all the people in the Xinyuan sect in Wuxia. They are prohibited from using the Xinyuan skill on ordinary people. You have used the Xinyuan skill to control the minds of ordinary people, which has violated the rules of the Xinyuan department. Fortunately, you have not done evil, so we are not going to hold you accountable. On the contrary, we invite you to join our Xinyuan department and serve Wuxia." Qin Haodong said, "Thank you for your kindness, but I have a girlfriend and a daughter, and I am a doctor, so I don't want to join your department." Unexpectedly, Qin Haodong refused her. Hu Xiaoxian's expression changed and she said, "As a member of the Xinyuan sect, you should serve the country." "I'm sorry, I'm not a member of the Xinyuan sect as you said. I'm just an ordinary person, an ordinary doctor." "Well, since you said you are an ordinary person, let's do it according to the rules of ordinary people." Hu Shaoxian said, "Feng Tianda recorded a video of his confession before he disappeared. He must have been controlled by you and then he disappeared again. I guess he must have died in your hands. If I send you to court, I believe you know the consequences." "Are you threatening me?" Qin Haodong smiled and said, "The court needs evidence. Although you come from a special department, you can't convict me just because of your words." Hu Shaoxian said, "Of course I know that, but if you can make Feng Tianda confess, I can make you confess. If you join our Xinyuan department, it's fine. If not, you will spend the rest of your life in prison." Qin Haodong said, "Well, I really want to see how you will make me confess. You won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Do you think your magic is invincible? Today I will let you know that there is always someone better than you." Hu Xiaoxian's expression changed and became extremely charming. She gently pulled down her coat, revealing her white shoulders and sexy collarbones. She said coquettishly, "Little handsome boy, what did you do to Feng Tianda? Can you tell me?" Chapter 179. Fox hypnosis was a unique secret method that Hu Xiaoxian's grandmother passed on to her. The effect of this kind of magic was not much different from Qin Haodong's mind manipulating. It was a kind of spiritual magic. Mind manipulating could not be used on people with strong spiritual power, otherwise they would be backfired. The same was true of Fox hypnosis, but the effect of backfiring was somewhat different. Once backfired, the caster would fall in love with the other party without hesitation. Because of this, Hu Xiaoxian's grandfather repeatedly warned her not to use this kind of magic easily. The reason why Hu Shaoxian dared to use this kind of magic was that she had enough confidence. Since she was born, her spiritual power had been far superior to that of ordinary people. Although her cultivation had just broken through to the first level of covert power, her spiritual power was enough to match that of a strong man at the supreme power level. In order to make Fox hypnosis backfire, the spiritual power must be more than 10 times that of the caster. In Hu Xiaoxian's opinion, 10 times the spiritual power of a strong man at the supreme power level did not exist on the earth. Even if there was, it was extremely rare. It was impossible for her to meet such a person. The chance of winning the 5 million prize was many times smaller. In particular, Qin Haodong's cultivation had just reached the 9th level of overt power. Normally, his spiritual power was much weaker than that of a warrior at the covert power level. Therefore, in her opinion, her spiritual power would definitely crush Qin Haodong and make him obediently tell the evidence of his murder. Then she would use this evidence to threaten him to join the Xuanzi department. She didn't expect that Qin Haodong had the primordial spirit of a heavenly master in his mind. His spiritual power was more than 10,000 times stronger than that of a warrior at the supreme power level. Therefore, when Hu Xiaoxian's spiritual power attacked Qin Haodong's sea of consciousness, she immediately suffered an overwhelming counterattack. Oh my god, I won the prize? This was the last trace of her consciousness. She only felt that her eyes were black, and then she lost consciousness and fell to the ground with a plop. Seeing Hu Xiaoxian fall to the ground, Qin Haodong hurriedly cried, "Hey, don't do this. How can you seduce me and blackmail me?" Anyway, she was his daughter's savior. Qin Haodong still helped her to the bed and then injected a greenwood genuine qi into her. Very happily, Hu Xiaoxian slowly opened her eyes. Seeing that she woke up, Qin Haodong quickly said, "Don't blackmail me. I didn't touch you. You fell by yourself." After that, his eyes met with Hu Xiaoxian's. He couldn't help but feel surprised. Why did her eyes seem to be full of love? Hu Xiaoxian had experienced the consequences of the spiritual backfire. At this moment, her heart was full of Qin Haodong, and there was no room for any impurities. She knew that she had completely fallen in love with the man in front of her. Although it was an accident, the person she chose was not bad. Falling in love with such a handsome guy was not a sad thing. "Haodong, I'm in love with you." Hu Xiaoxian gazed at Qin Haodong and said. Qin Haodong originally wanted to reach out to feel Hu Xiaoxian's pulse again. After hearing her words, he felt like he was struck by lightning and quickly stepped back. "I'm telling you, you can't fake this kind of thing. I already have a girlfriend. You've seen it too. I even have a daughter. You should just give up." Hu Xiaoxian said, "It doesn't matter. I don't care what you have as long as you are good to me." "Impossible. I have a girlfriend and a daughter. I don't have time to be nice to you." The debt of love with Qi Wan'er had not been solved. Qin Haodong did not dare to provoke another woman, even if Hu Xiaoxian was beautiful. "I don't care. Anyway, I've fallen in love with you. I can't change it even if I want to." Hu Xiaoxian was telling the truth, but it was not the case in Qin Haodong's ears. He said, "I've only known you for a few hours. How could you fall in love with me? Tell me honestly, what do you want?" "Haven't I already told you? I don't want anything else as long as you are good to me," Hu Xiaoxian said as she sat up from the bed. She checked her clothes and asked, "Did you do anything to me when I fainted?" "No, definitely not." Qin Haodong waved his hand again and again. "Then do you want to do something? It's not too late now." Hu Xiaoxian first winked at Qin Haodong, then stood up and stretched, showing her perfect figure in front of him. "Yes. No, your injury has healed. You better go now." Looking at the beautiful and charming Hu Xiaoxian, Qin Haodong felt that his heart was beating faster and faster. If it went on like this, he might not be able to hold on. "Go. Why should I go? You're my man. I'll follow you for the rest of my life. This is my home in the future," Hu Xiaoxian said as she swayed her sexy body and stepped toward Qin Haodong. "I tell you, don't come over. I'll be rude to you." In the face of such a great beauty, Qin Haodong was a little flustered. "Well, I want to see how rude you are. Anyway, I'm yours. You can do whatever you want to me." Hu Xiaoxian's voice seemed to be charming. She stretched out her two white and tender arms and hugged Qin Haodong's neck. She stared at him with her charming eyes. The deep love in her eyes made Qin Haodong's heart tremble. He really couldn't understand how such strong emotions could appear in such a seemingly incomparably coquettish woman. He didn't know that the Fox clan had been a mysterious and unique clan since ancient times. Each of the women of the Fox clan looked coquettish and infatuated. They would never fall in love with a second person in their life. Although Hu Xiaoxian was not a member of the Fox clan, the celestial fox cultivation method she practiced was from the Fox clan, so she naturally had the characteristics of the Fox clan. "You. Let me go." At this moment, Qin Haodong seemed to have become a little sheep being stared at by a pervert. He hurriedly stretched out his hands to push Hu Xiaoxian away. Unexpectedly, he suddenly pressed on the place where he shouldn't have pressed. The elastic and smooth feeling made him forget to take his hands back for a moment. Hu Xiaoxian's body trembled slightly, but she did not dodge. Then she said coquettishly, "How about it? Little man, do you like it? If you don't like it with clothes on, I can take them off." Only then did Qin Haodong realize where his hands were pressed. He reluctantly took them back and said with embarrassment, I didn't mean it." "Fool, I'll be yours sooner or later. What's the difference between intentional and unintentional?" Hu Xiaoxian said, putting her towering peaks on Qin Haodong's chest. They were so close that they could even clearly feel each other's breath on their faces. Qin Haodong hurriedly pushed her away, but this time he pressed his hands on his shoulders. Looking at his nervous look, Hu Xiaoxian giggled and said, "Little man, you're so shy. Is it your first time?" In fact, it's also my first time. Seeing that he was teased by a beautiful woman like this, Qin Haodong was full of grievances but had nowhere to vent. He couldn't push the woman in front of him down in a daze. Wu Shaoxian said, "Forget it. Look at your timid look. Tell me, which room will I stay in tonight?" "I'll stay in that room." Qin Haodong raised his hand subconsciously and then regretted it. The room he pointed to happened to be the one opposite his bedroom. Wu Shaoxian stepped over and reached out to gently support his cheek. Then she lifted his chin and said, "Little man, I won't close the door at night. If you regret it, you can come at any time." After that, she kissed Qin Haodong's cheek with her tender red lips, and then went back to the room while twisting her sexy body. Seeing Hu Shaoxian close the door, Qin Haodong sat on the sofa powerlessly. 3 words jumped out of his mind: "Vixen?" After returning to the room, Hu Shaoxian took out her mobile phone and dialed a phone number. Soon an old voice came over the phone. "Girl, how's it going? Did you find that man?" "I found him, but there was a big accident." "What accident? Is that man a hidden master?" "No." Hu Shaoxian said in a low voice, "Grandpa, I used fox hypnosis on him and, you little girl, didn't I tell you not to use it indiscriminately? Why didn't you listen to Grandpa? What was the result?" The old man asked eagerly. "The result was that his mental strength was extremely strong and I was backfired." "What? You were backfired? Is there really someone who is 10 times stronger than your mental strength? How is that possible?" On the other side of the phone, the old man jumped up. After stabilizing his mood, he cried, "Girl, how do you feel now? Do you really fall in love with that old guy?" Hu Shaoxian said, "The backfire of fox hypnosis is extremely strong. I can't extricate myself now. I'm going to find your grandma now. Why did she pass on fox hypnosis to you? Now it's troublesome." Hu Shaoxian quickly said, "Grandpa, it's not Grandma's business and now it has happened. It's useless for you to find Grandma." Alas. The old man let out a long sigh and asked, "Tell me, is that old monster more than 100 years old? Should I call him brother or uncle when I see him?" "Grandpa, I'm actually teasing you." Hu Shaoxian giggled when she said that. "You little girl, how dare you make such a joke with Grandpa? I'll punish you for 3 years of confinement." The old man on the other side of the phone was angry and amused, but he also put down a big stone in his heart. If his baby granddaughter really fell in love with a bad old man, it would be terrible. "Lass, what you said just now, which one is true and which one is false?" Hu Shaoxian said with a smile, "In fact, it's all true, but I pretended to be unhappy. I did use fox hypnosis and I did get backfired, but the other party is a handsome man in his 20s, not the kind of old man you think." "Grandpa, I'm lucky, right? Are you happy for me?" The old man sighed and said in a sad voice, "Girl, since it's already like this, there's no need to lie to Grandpa. Don't worry, no matter how old and ugly he is, Grandpa can hold on." "Grandpa, why don't you believe it? The other party is really a handsome man in his 20s. The old man cried, "I'll be a ghost if I believe you. Do you think your grandpa is really stupid? How can a young man in his 20s have such a strong spiritual force?" It was no wonder that the old man didn't believe it. In his opinion, those who could have spiritual force 10 times stronger than that of the Supreme Power Master were all old monsters without exception. Believe it or not, anyway, he is a handsome man, 10 times more handsome than you when you were young. Hu Shaoxian said with a smile, "That's it. I'm going to take a bath first and then I'll go and flirt with the handsome man." She hung up the phone, but the old man couldn't sleep. He talked with his granddaughter all night, but he didn't know which sentence was true and which was false. Qin Haodong had just been flirted with by Hu Shaoxian, and his whole body seemed to be on fire, especially the second leader. He was almost out of control. He rushed into the bathroom, turned on the shower head and poured cold water from head to toe. Then he felt a little better. Chapter 180. Qin Haodong wiped off the soap on his face and saw Hu Shaoxian standing at the door in a charming way. In such a moment, Qin Haodong, who had just been extinguished by the cold water, regained his fighting spirit. Qin Haodong quickly grabbed a small basin next to him to protect his key parts and cried, "Why are you here?" Hu Shaoxian said, "This is the bathroom." "Of course I'm here to take a bath." Qin Haodong cried, "No, there is a bathroom downstairs. Go downstairs if you want to take a bath. Close the door quickly. It's quite big. Why are you so timid?" Hu Shaoxian left the bathroom with a smile and turned to go downstairs. Qin Haodong quickly closed the bathroom door and threw away the small basin in his hand. He suddenly had a strange feeling in his heart. As a man, how could he be forced like this by a woman? After taking a shower, he hurriedly returned to his room and closed the door. He even locked it for the first time in his life. Qin Haodong was tortured by Hu Shaoxian. Who knew if this girl would touch his bed in the middle of the night? With her great charm he might really have sex with her. Fortunately the night was safe. When Qin Haodong got up the next day, Hu Shaoxian also got up early and was doing morning exercises in the yard. Compared with others, her way of morning exercises was very special. She was not boxing, not running, but dancing. It had to be said that Hu Shaoxian's dance was really good. Her face was off the charts, her figure was curvy, and her dancing posture was moving. In the early morning sunshine, she brought people infinite beauty and temptation, which made Qin Haodong stunned for a while. 5 minutes later, the song ended and Hu Shaoxian finished dancing. She turned to Qin Haodong and smiled charmingly. How was it? Did I dance well? Yes. Qin Haodong couldn't help but say. He had never seen such a moving dance. After that, he felt a little inappropriate and said, When are you leaving? Hu Shaoxian said, Why should I leave? I said that you are my man. I will be wherever you are in this life. I won't leave if you don't leave. You. Qin Haodong didn't expect to be pestered by this woman. He said angrily, If you don't leave I'll call the police. Hu Shaoxian didn't get angry. Instead, she giggled and came over to hold Qin Haodong's arm. Well, if you want to call the police I'll say that you molested me. Let's see who the police believe. If you do this again I won't be polite anymore. Alright, you want to chase me away? You have to be able to beat me first. The more Hu Shaoxian said, the tighter she held Qin Haodong's arm. Her breasts were pressed tightly against his arm. Qin Haodong blushed and was speechless. His cultivation had just reached the 9th level of overt power, while Hu Shaoxian was a real master of covert power. Faced with this kind of female tenant who he could not chase away, nor could he beat, and who was ready to be taken by him at any time, there was really nothing he could do. If you don't want to leave then stay here. I'll leave. After that, Qin Haodong left his home angrily and walked to the Lin's villa. Hu Shaoxian laughed behind him and said, Little man, remember to come back early at night. I'll wait for you after taking a bath at home. Qin Haodong slipped and almost fell to the ground, which made Hu Shaoxian laugh again. When he came to the bedroom, the little fellow was still lying on the bed and sleeping. Lin Momo was next to her. Seeing Qin Haodong coming in, she asked worriedly, She hasn't woken up yet. Is there anything wrong? My daughter is sleeping so soundly. What can happen to her? Don't think too much. Qin Haodong said as he put his hand on the little fellow's pulse and began to feel her pulse. After what happened last night, he found that there had been great changes in the little fellow's body. Emperor Yan's Heart Sutra had completely stabilized at the 1st level, and all the fire in the body had been absorbed and transformed into genuine qi. In terms of the purity and quantity of genuine qi alone, the little fellow's cultivation was comparable to that of a warrior at the 3rd level of overt power. This kind of cultivation speed was absolutely against the natural order. On the one hand, it was because of the awakening of the Suzaku sacred body. On the other hand, what happened last night had stimulated her too much and stimulated the potential of the little fellow. From this point of view, it was a blessing in disguise. Otherwise, it would take at least half a year for her to reach the current realm. The biggest advantage of this kind of advancement was that the little fellow could control the fire in the body. She didn't have to worry about casually causing a fire. As long as she didn't take the initiative to attack people with fire, the secret of her spitting fire would not be discovered. In fact, spitting fire was the most primitive instinct to attack with fire. It would be better if there was a set of fire system cultivation method to control fire. Qin Haodong's only fire system cultivation method, Emperor Yan's Heart Sutra, was only a cultivation method. It could not control fire to attack. While he was thinking, Lin Momo asked worriedly, Haodong, how is Tang Tang? Qin Haodong said, She's fine. She's fine. She'll wake up soon. While speaking, the little fellow suddenly opened her eyes and cried in horror, Bad guy, let go of my papa. Her memory still stayed at the moment when Dao Tong attacked Qin Haodong last night. Qin Haodong was moved. Having such a daughter made him feel very warm. He said, Don't be afraid, Papa is here. The little fellow saw Qin Haodong and Lin Momo in front of her, and the look of horror on her face slowly faded. She grabbed Qin Haodong's hand and asked, Papa, where's the bad guy? Qin Haodong patted her chubby little face and said, The bad guy has been beaten away by Tang Tang. Really? Then I'll protect Papa from now on. If I meet a bad guy, I'll burn him with fire. As the little fellow said, she spat out a small flame in the air. Qin Haodong hurriedly said, Tang Tang, you can't spit fire without Papa's permission. What? I want to beat the bad guy. The little fellow asked with a puzzled face. I'm still young. Sometimes I may not be able to tell who is good and who is bad. It would be bad if you burn the good guy. In addition, your ability to spit fire is very special. Other children don't have it at all. What if they know you can spit fire and treat you as a little monster? There will be no children to play with you, and you will become a child without friends. The little fellow quickly covered her mouth with her chubby little hand and said with a silly face, I don't want to be a little monster. I want to have good friends. Qin Haodong was afraid that the little fellow would spit fire everywhere and cause unnecessary trouble. He continued, that's right. Don't let others know that you have this ability. Otherwise, if you are caught by the bad guy, you will be in trouble. Then you will never see Papa and Mama again. No, I don't want to leave Papa and Mama. The little fellow said with a serious face, I'll only spit fire when Papa asks me to. After listening to the little fellow's words, Qin Haodong's heart moved. Through the battle with Dao Tong last night, he realized that there were still many masters in the world. To better protect Lin Momo and the little fellow, he had to improve his cultivation as soon as possible. Due to the particularity of his cultivation method, he could not break through the bottleneck of the foundation realm without sufficient spiritual qi. In this case, he had to think of other ways such as improving the cultivation of Qi Wan or Ma Wenjua and others through elixirs. The improvement of their cultivation was equivalent to the improvement of his own strength. But his current cultivation was still unable to refine elixirs suitable for masters of internal strength. But with the congenital fire of the little fellow, it was completely different. As long as he found a suitable alchemy furnace, with the congenital fire and his superb alchemy skills, he could refine higher-level elixirs. Thinking of this, Qin Haodong was excited. The urgent task was to find a good alchemy furnace that could withstand the congenital fire. Ordinary alchemy furnaces would explode before the elixirs were refined. Where could he find a suitable alchemy furnace? He thought about it and suddenly remembered Fatty Wang, whom he had met in the antique street last time. The mirror of yin-yang in his hand was from them. Maybe they had other good things. After all, these antique dealers usually hid good things and did not put them in their shops. After making up his mind, Qin Haodong sent the little fellow to kindergarten after breakfast and drove straight to the antique street. After getting out of the car, he went directly to Fatty Wang's shop and was surprised to find that it was closed and not open. He walked around the street again and did not find the fake old Taoist and other blackmailers, which made him very strange. Fatty Wang and others should not have washed their hands so soon. He went to the shop next to Fatty Wang's. The owner was a middle-aged man in his 40s. Qin Haodong asked, Brother, let me ask around. It's almost noon. Why hasn't the fat boss next door come yet? The middle-aged man said, He can't come. What's wrong? What happened? Qin Haodong asked in surprise. Fatty Wang is crazy. Crazy? He was fine some time ago. Why did he suddenly go crazy? The middle-aged man said, I don't know the specific reason. Anyway, he is crazy now. I went to see him a few days ago. I have been neighbors with Fatty Wang for more than 10 years, but he didn't know me at all. He was crazy and kept talking nonsense. I couldn't understand him at all. Qin Haodong asked, Brother, can you learn what he said from me? I didn't pay much attention to it. It seemed that he was shouting something like Zhang Dahu's life, shouting revenge and so on. Sometimes he even shouted that I would fight with you. Big brother, can you tell me where Fatty Wang lives? I want to go and see him. The middle-aged man said, I can tell you, but you have to be careful. Now Fatty Wang is very sick. When he goes crazy, he even beats his mother. Don't worry, brother. I'll pay attention. Qin Haodong got the address from the middle-aged man. It was not too far from the antique street. About 10 minutes later, he arrived at Fatty Wang's house. It was a spacious yard. There was a 3-story building in the yard. It was completely built according to the European style. It was very beautiful. It seemed that Fatty Wang had made a lot of money these years. Qin Haodong came to the big iron gate and knocked several times. The gate opened and a middle-aged woman in her 30s came out. The woman was a little fat. Her face was black and blue. It seemed that she had been beaten. Who are you looking for? The woman asked. I'm looking for Fatty Wang. I'm his friend. Qin Haodong said. He is crazy now. Why are you looking for him? Go back quickly. The woman was about to close the door. Qin Haodong said quickly, Don't worry. I'm a doctor. I heard that Brother Wang is sick, so I came to see him. Chapter 181. Send him to a mental hospital? Qin Haodong said, Madam, you have to think about it. If you really send him to a mental hospital, his life will be over. The woman sighed and said, Look at the wounds on my body. They are all from him. He beats everyone when he is crazy. My mother and my son have also been hurt. If I had any other way, I would not send him to a mental hospital. After all, we have been husband and wife for more than 10 years, and it will cost a lot of money to go to a mental hospital. He used to be the backbone of our family. He has been living a better life these years, but he suddenly got sick. I don't know what he did in his last life. Qin Haodong said, Madam, let me see him. If I can't cure him, you can send him to a mental hospital. Well, the woman looked at Qin Haodong suspiciously. He was so young and did not look like a doctor. Qin Haodong also understood what she was thinking and said, Don't worry, madam. My treatment is free. I don't need a penny whether I cure him or not. If you can cure him, you can save a lot of medical expenses. Are you sure you don't need money? The woman asked. Yes, I don't need a penny. Although Qin Haodong was not related to Fatty Wang, he did not hate him too much. Now he was eager to cure Fatty Wang and find out the source of the yin-yang mirror. Well, come with me. The woman opened the door and let Qin Haodong into the yard. After entering the door, Qin Haodong heard a violent cry. Zhang Dahu, you killed my parents, my son and my man. I will kill you today. Then there was a series of crashing sounds. It seemed like someone was smashing something. The woman said with a sad face, Little brother, he is going crazy again. After that, she took Qin Haodong to the front of the room, but she did not open the door. Instead, she took Qin Haodong to see through the window. The whole window glass had been smashed into pieces. Fortunately, the window was equipped with a protective fence so the person inside could not get out. Qin Haodong looked through the protective fence and saw a man with a dirty face. He was waving a kitchen knife that had been sharpened. He was madly venting his anger everywhere. Apart from the various decorations in the room, even the furniture had been smashed into pieces. The man was the crazy Fatty Wang, but compared to 10 days ago he had lost a lot of weight. If one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't be able to tell. After seeing Fatty Wang, Qin Haodong frowned slightly. He saw that Fatty Wang's whole body was covered by a layer of faint black qi, which was a typical symptom of being possessed by a ghost. He had long suspected that Fatty Wang was not really mentally ill, but was contaminated by something unclean. It seemed that it was true. After confirming his thoughts, he turned to the woman and said, Sister-in-law, can you tell me how he went crazy? The more detailed, the better. The woman thought for a moment and said, 10 days ago, he collected a batch of antiques from somewhere. When he was sorting them out, my son was naughty and accidentally broke a porcelain guanyin statue. Then he suddenly went crazy and smashed all the antiques he collected. That's how he is now. After that, the woman asked, Little brother, can you cure this disease? He is not mentally ill at all. He is possessed by an evil spirit. In the old saying, it's called being possessed by a ghost. Qin Haodong said. What? Possessed by an evil spirit? How is that possible? The woman cried in surprise. Some magicians and Taoists often use bodhisattva statues and guanyu statues to suppress some ghosts that can't be subdued. If I'm not wrong, there is a very powerful ghost suppressed in that guanyin statue, and your son happened to break it. After the ghost was released, it was possessed by Fatty Wang. It seems so. The woman became more frightened and said to Qin Haodong, Little brother, please, as long as you can take that ghost away, you can ask for as much money as you want. I've said that it's free. Qin Haodong said, Sister-in-law, don't worry. I will cure him soon. The woman cried, Little brother, thank you. Thank you so much. As long as you can cure Fatty Wang's disease, you will be the benefactor of our family. Qin Haodong nodded. When he was about to go in to treat Fatty Wang, there was a shrill siren at the door. A medical van with a red cross on it drove into the yard. After the van stopped, a middle-aged male doctor in his 40s got out of the van, followed by 2 nurses wearing big masks. Each of them held a foot-long electric baton in their hands. Police. Baton. Hearing Fatty Wang's constant roar, the 3 of them immediately came over. The middle-aged doctor glanced at Fatty Wang, who was locked up in the room, and turned back to the 2 young nurses and said, This is a typical symptom of a psychotic frenzy. Be careful when you fight later. Don't be soft or you will hurt yourself. After that, he turned to Qin Haodong and the nurse and asked, I'm Ma Guoli, the chief physician of Jiangnan City Mental Hospital. Are you the patient's family? The woman said, I'm his wife, but Ma Guoli interrupted her and said, No buts. The patient's condition is very serious. Open the door quickly and we will take him to the mental hospital immediately. After that, he turned on the baton in his hand. Police. The baton crackled and the electricity crackled. Police. The baton released a foot-long blue electric arc. The woman asked in surprise, Dr. Ma, what are you doing? Are you going to use this to shock my husband? Ma Guoli said, Of course. Look at his current symptoms of mania. If we don't subdue him, how can we take him away? No, that's not possible. The woman was obviously frightened by the electric baton in Ma Guoli's hand. She quickly said, Dr. Ma, if you do this, we won't treat him. Ma Guoli immediately frowned and said discontentedly, Why are you so insensible as the patient's family? He is now a violent mental patient. How can he be cured if we don't treat him? Besides, you called us to come. Now that we are here, you say you won't treat him. Do you think we doctors are very free? After that, he turned back to the two nurses and said, Open the door and take the patient away. The two nurses answered and were about to enter the door with the electric baton in their hands. The woman quickly cried, No, you can't take my husband away like this. Ma Guoli pushed the woman away and said, Get out of the way. Don't delay our treatment of the patient. How could the woman stop the strong Ma Guoli? She was pushed aside at once. Just as they were about to enter the door, they heard someone next to them shouting, Stop. Qin Haodong couldn't stand it anymore. He stepped forward and said, How can you be a doctor? First, your judgment of the patient's condition is inaccurate. He is not mentally ill at all. Second, even if he is mentally ill, you have to listen to the family's opinion on whether to treat him or not. His family has said that they won't treat him. Are you going to take him away? Ma Guoli looked back at Qin Haodong and said with disdain, Who are you? Do I need you to teach me how to be a doctor? Qin Haodong said, I am also a doctor, a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. A traditional Chinese medicine practitioner? A traditional Chinese medicine practitioner is also a doctor? It's just some tricks to deceive people. How dare you talk nonsense in front of me? Ma Guoqiang said with disdain, Now the patient's condition is very clear. He has typical symptoms of violent mental illness. For the sake of social stability, we must take him back for treatment. Qin Haodong sneered and said, For the sake of social stability? What a big hat. I think it's for the commission of treating patients. Ma Guoli's expression froze when he was exposed. Then he shouted, It's none of your business. You are a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. Can you treat mental illness? I have already said that this is not a mental illness and I can also treat it. Ma Guoli laughed exaggeratedly and said, Now you say this is not a mental illness. Are you saying that he is bewitched? Qin Haodong nodded and said, You are right. He is indeed bewitched. Ma Guoli didn't expect Qin Haodong to say that. He was slightly stunned and said, It is said that traditional Chinese medicine is a feudal superstition. Now it seems that it is true. Then he turned back to the woman and said, I am the attending doctor of the mental hospital. Do you believe him or me? He originally thought that Fatty Wang's wife would choose to believe him, but the woman said without hesitation, I believe this little brother. The reason why the woman made such a simple choice was that Qin Haodong's symptoms were exactly the same as Fatty Wang's. Secondly, she was really frightened by the electric baton in Ma Guoli's hand. Stupid. How stupid. You would rather believe a little liar than a regular doctor. Ma Guoli glared at the woman and then said, It's okay if you don't believe me. Pay the consultation fee and we will leave immediately. He turned back to a nurse and said, Xiao Zhao, calculate the consultation fee for her. The nurse said, It's 1,680 yuan in total. The woman was shocked and cried, Why is it so much money? And the consultation fee? We didn't use you to treat us. It's your business whether you need to see a doctor or not. Anyway, we are already here. Because your family has occupied the hospital's medical resources, it is natural to pay the fee. Pay up quickly. Qin Haodong frowned and said, Are you crazy about money? You want to charge her 1,680 yuan without moving a finger? Ma Guoli looked back at him and said, You are a little liar. What do you know? This is the hospital's normal fee. Qin Haodong said coldly, Who are you calling a liar? I'm talking about you. Ma Guoli said arrogantly, You said he is not mentally ill and possessed. What are you if you are not a liar? Cure him if you have the ability. I don't want a penny of the money. Did you say that? Of course I said it. I always keep my word. Even my spit is a nail. Well, let's make a bet. Qin Haodong waved his hand and took out 2 stacks of unopened Wuxia currency. He said, I have 20,000 yuan here. If I can't cure the patient in 10 minutes, the money is yours. If I can cure him, you take out an extra 20,000 yuan as the nutrition fee for the patient. How about it? Do you dare to make a bet? Are you sure you are not joking? Ma Guoli asked in disbelief. In his opinion, Qin Haodong was simply giving him money. Even the best psychiatrist in the world could not cure a violent mental patient in just 10 minutes. Qin Haodong said, "Of course it's true. As long as you agree we can sign a bet immediately." "Okay, I'll bet with you." Chapter 182. After that, Qin Haodong handed 20,000 yuan to the woman and said, "It's not convenient to be watched when I'm treating the patient. Take them to the yard and wait for me." Okay. The woman was very afraid of the ghost that Qin Haodong mentioned. She immediately agreed and left the room to wait. Ma Guoli and the others also went back to the van. After they left, Qin Haodong opened the door and stepped into the room where Fatty Wang was. Fatty Wang was waving the kitchen knife and roaring in the room. Seeing the door was opened, he immediately raised the knife and rushed over. Qin Haodong reached out and the mirror of Yin Yang appeared in his palm. He had some experience in using this divine artifact now. Holding the mirror of Yin Yang, he shook it at Fatty Wang and shouted, "Demon, show yourself." The Yin Yang mirror shot a golden light into the space between Fatty Wang's eyebrows. Fatty Wang immediately froze there like a statue. Then a cloud of black mist rose from the top of his head and slowly turned into the image of a woman in a red ancient costume. At first, the woman looked ferocious, but when she saw the mirror of Yin Yang in Qin Haodong's hand, she immediately showed a look of horror. As a ghost, she instinctively felt the power of the divine artifact. The ghost in red cried, "Master, please spare my life." Qin Haodong said, "Demon, you should be reincarnated as soon as you die. Why do you stay in the world of the living to harm people?" "Master, please help me. I died unjustly," the ghost in red said. Then she knelt down and kept kowtowing to Qin Haodong. "What injustice? Tell me." Qin Haodong said, "I was born in an ordinary farmer's family. Although I lived a poor life, I lived a happy life with my husband and children. Who would have thought that Zhang Dahu took a fancy to this little girl? He beat my man to death, threw my 2-year-old son to death and took me to his house. I was so angry that I hanged myself in the middle of the night in red clothes in order to get revenge on Zhang Dahu. I turned into a fierce ghost to kill him. I didn't expect that after my death, Zhang Dahu invited a very powerful Taoist to suppress me in the statue of Guanyin. A few days ago the statue of Guanyin broke and I was able to get out of it. So I must get revenge on Zhang Dahu. As long as you can help me, I'll let you do whatever you want." The ghost in red was sobbing when she said that. Qin Haodong sighed. She was also a poor person. He asked, "Which era were you born in?" The female ghost in red said in surprise, "I'm not talented and I don't understand what you mean. Please tell me." Qin Haodong said, "I was born in the Qing dynasty. And what era were you when you were alive?" "What era were you?" The ghost in red said, "I was born in the Qing dynasty and my era was Kangxi." The ghost in red said, "I was born in the Kangxi." Qin Haodong said, "Zhang? It's been more than 300 years. I'm afraid that Zhang Dahu has already reincarnated many times. Who are you going to take revenge on?" "What? More than 300 years?" The female ghost in red was stunned. She was trapped in the statue of Guanyin. It was dark all day and she had no concept of time. She only wanted to take revenge. She did not expect that more than 300 years had passed in the blink of an eye. She was trapped in the statue of Guanyin. It was dark all day and she had no sense of time. She just wanted to get revenge. She didn't expect that more than 300 years had passed. The female ghost in red slowly came back to her senses. There was no Zhang Dahu in this world, so there was no point for her to stay. She said, "But master, I can't find a way to reincarnate." Qin Haodong raised the mirror of Yin Yang and said, "This magic weapon can communicate with the Yin and Yang. I'll send you there." "Thank you, master." The ghost in red kowtowed to Qin Haodong again and then jumped to the mirror. The Yin Yang mirror flashed, and the figure of the female ghost in red immediately disappeared. Just at this moment, Fatty Wang quivered, his eyes slowly regaining their clarity. Although the female ghost controlled his body just now, he still saw clearly what happened around him. He knelt down in front of Qin Haodong and said, "Little brother, thank you for saving me. You are my great benefactor. Get up. Go to see your wife." Qin Haodong helped Fatty Wang up and they went to the door together. The woman had been waiting in the yard. She couldn't believe it when she saw Fatty Wang coming out with Qin Haodong. Fatty Wang looked normal and didn't look crazy anymore. Little brother, is my husband cured?" She hesitated and said to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong turned to Fatty Wang and said, "Go and say hello to your wife." Fatty Wang took 2 steps forward and looked at the bruises on the woman's face. He said guiltily, "Honey, I'm sorry." "Honey, it's great. You're cured." The woman was sure that Fatty Wang's spirit had returned to normal. She immediately jumped into his arms and cried. She had suffered too much grievance and mental pressure these days. Qin Haodong turned to Ma Guoli, who was watching, and said, "How about it? I've cured the patient. Can you fulfill your bet?" The best punishment for such a bad doctor who only cared about money was to make him lose a lot of money. That was why Qin Haodong bet 20,000 yuan with him. Ma Guoli was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. He never expected that this young man would be able to cure a berserk mental patient in less than 10 minutes. After hearing Qin Haodong's words, his face immediately changed and he cried, "Nonsense. I think this is an intermittent psychosis. It will happen again later." Ma Guoli waved to the two nurses behind him and said, "You catch this intermittent psychosis. I think this young man is not in good spirits. Take him back to the hospital for treatment. You don't deserve to be a doctor anymore. You don't have to work anymore." Ma Guoli didn't speak, but he didn't care. He thought to himself, "It's not up to you to decide whether I'm a doctor or not." Then Qin Haodong took out his mobile phone from his pocket and dialed Pan Gaofeng, the director of the sanitary bureau. He briefly told him about Ma Guoli's situation. Pan Gaofeng was furious. "I didn't expect that there was such a scumbag in the team of doctors. Dr. Qin, don't worry. I'll deal with it." The aftereffects left by the electric baton on Ma Guoli's body had gradually faded. He slowly stood up from the ground and moved his stiff and numb limbs. Just then his mobile phone rang in his pocket. As soon as he pressed the answer button, he heard the director growling, "Ma Guoli, you bastard. Who let you go out and mess around? From now on you're fired." Ma Guoli was shocked and said quickly, "Director, listen to my explanation," but before he could finish, the other side hung up the phone with a bang. At this time, the director of the mental hospital was in a mess. The sanitary bureau had set up an inspection team to review the management system of the mental hospital. Now he couldn't protect himself, so he didn't have time to listen to his explanation. At this time, Ma Guoli realized that the young man in front of him was not joking. He really had the power to make him lose his job as a doctor with a phone call. He quickly begged, "Little brother, please forgive me this time. I won't dare to do it again." In the future? If Brother Wang had been taken to the mental hospital by you, or if I had been an ordinary person who had been taken to the mental hospital by you, would there still be a future? A scumbag like you doesn't deserve to be a doctor at all. Get out of here. Qin Haodong had no pity for people like Ma Guoli who lacked medical ethics. Whether it was a psychiatrist or an ordinary doctor, sometimes a wrong diagnosis could destroy the rest of the patient's life. Fatty Wang raised the axe in his hand again and shouted fiercely, "Did you hear that? Dr. Qin asked you to get out." Seeing that there was no hope of redemption, Ma Guoli could only leave with the two young nurses. After he left, the woman gave the bank card and 20,000 yuan in her hand to Qin Haodong and said, "Little brother, this is your money." Qin Haodong said, "Sister, take the money first. Clean up the house later and buy some supplements for Brother Wang. Otherwise he won't be called fat in the future." Fatty Wang said quickly, "Dr. Qin, how can I do that? I'm grateful that you saved me. How can I take your money?" Chapter 183. Hearing Qin Haodong mention the last time, Fatty Wang said awkwardly, "Dr. Qin, I'm sorry. I was blind last time. I shouldn't have blackmailed you." Qin Haodong raised his hand to stop Fatty Wang and said, "You misunderstood me. In fact, we should all thank that mirror. It's a magic instrument. It saved me once and just saved your life. Without that mirror, it would be really difficult to deal with the ghost on your body." Fatty Wang was dumbfounded. He didn't expect that the mirror that he had treated as waste and used to blackmail the porcelain would be so useful. Qin Haodong said, "Where did that mirror come from? Do you remember?" Fatty Wang came to his senses and said, "In our business, we often go to villages and towns and pick up some leftovers from the hands of ordinary people who don't know antiques. That mirror was sold to us by an old man. I thought it was a good thing, but I found many experts and they couldn't identify what it was. Later, I put it on display for a long time and didn't sell it, so I used it to blackmail." "Can you still find the old man who sold the mirror?" Qin Haodong asked, unwilling to give up. Fatty Wang shook his head and said, "I can't find him. I met the old man on the road. I don't know where he lives." Qin Haodong was disappointed. Originally, he wanted to find the origin of the mirror of Yin Yang through this clue. Maybe there were other ancient relics there and he could find an opportunity to improve his cultivation. Now it seemed impossible. After calming down, he said to Fatty Wang, "You've been in the antique circle for a long time. Do you know anyone who has antiques like a cauldron? The bigger the better." "What do you want it for?" Fatty Wang whispered in Qin Haodong's ear, "Brother, you saved my life. I don't treat you as an outsider. To tell you the truth, this kind of bronze heavyware is strictly controlled by the state. It can't be taken to the public at all, or it will be very troublesome. Qin Haodong said, You misunderstood me. I don't want to sell it. I just want to find something I need. Well, Fatty Wang said, To tell you the truth, I have some bronzeware in my hand, but I didn't put it at home. If you really need it, you can come with me and have a look. But we have a deal. You can take whatever you like, but you have to keep it a secret for me. Bronze wares are all from the underground. Although Big Brother bought them with money, we can't let others know. No problem. Qin Haodong simply agreed. There were many things like grave robbing and selling antiques in Wuxia. It was not something that a doctor like him could handle. Moreover, Fatty Wang was telling the truth. He did not have the kind of death aura unique to grave robbers. At this time, Fatty Wang's wife brought 2 bowls of instant noodles. Fatty Wang was starving these days, so he quickly ate up the 2 bowls of instant noodles and then left home with Qin Haodong. Instead, they took Haodong's SUV. Fatty Wang drove to Fatty Wang's SUV and went out of the city. They went to a Qin's car and drove by Haodong. There were 3 shabby tile-roofed houses in the yard. Fatty Wang opened the door and took Qin Haodong into the house. Then he moved a large water tank in the kitchen and revealed a hole. They went into the hole. Fatty Wang groped along the wall for a long time, and then turned on the light. The hole was instantly lit up. Qin Haodong looked around. Although the hole was very small, it was very spacious below. It was about 30 or 40 square meters and it was very dry. In front of them, there were all kinds of bronzeware, large and small, such as a bronze tripod weighing 50 kilograms, and small candlesticks, copper coins and so on. Fatty Wang said, Brother, all my property over the years is here. No matter what you like, just take it. Qin Haodong looked around and suddenly saw a big tripod in the corner. The tripod was about the height of a man and looked very strong. Qin Haodong walked over. Before he got close to the tripod, he felt a scorching aura and faintly smelled the remaining smell of elixirs. It's a medicine tripod, it's really a medicine tripod? Qin Haodong felt a burst of excitement in his heart. He had worn out iron shoes in fruitless searching but found it by chance. He didn't expect that he really found a medicine tripod in Fatty Wang's place. He went to the tripod and looked at it carefully. The whole body of the tripod was dark bronze, and it was faintly full of a calm atmosphere. There were 9 lifelike dragons on the surface of the tripod, and the dragon heads were just at the mouth of the tripod. At the bottom of the tripod there were 3 big words, 9 Dragon Tripod. Qin Haodong stroked the tripod and was ecstatic. He not only found a medicine tripod but also of excellent quality. It was only 1 grade lower than the Medicine King tripod he used in the cultivation world. Brother, do you like this thing? Fatty Wang stepped forward and said, I don't know what this thing is made of. It's not copper or iron. It's so big but it's not too heavy. In order to prove it to Qin Haodong, he reached out and picked up the 9 Dragon tripod. Qin Haodong was secretly amused. Ordinary people didn't know what a magic weapon was. With the quality of the 9 Dragon tripod, it was a priceless treasure even in the cultivation world. How could it be made of copper and iron? He said, Brother Wang, I want this tripod. How much is it? You name your price. Brother, aren't you mocking me? If it weren't for you, I would have been sent to a mental hospital by that grandson, and my life would have been over. I just said that no matter which one you like, you can take it. Qin Haodong nodded. Although Fatty Wang was at the bottom of the society, he was grateful and could be regarded as a person to be friends with. Brother Wang, do you know where this tripod came from? He had confirmed that the 9 Dragon tripod was a medicine tripod used by cultivators to refine medicine. If he could find the origin of the 9 Dragon tripod, maybe he could find an ancient site. If he could find the cave of an ancient cultivator, he would be really rich. The treasures inside would definitely improve his cultivation to a level. Fatty Wang shook his head and said, I don't know about this. There is a rule in our business. Only pay the price, don't ask the origin. If you ask too much, people won't come next time. Can you contact the person who sold you things? Qin Haodong said, Brother Wang, I want to find out where this tripod came from. This is very important to me. As long as you can help me, we will be friends in the future. Fatty Wang said, the person who sold me this tripod is called Dilong. He specializes in underground work and has always made a living by robbing tombs. I bought many things here from him. But although we are old customers, we don't leave contact information with each other. You must know why. If you want to contact Dilong, you can only wait for him to come to me. But it has been almost a month since he last sent me goods. According to his habit in the past, he should come in a few days. Brother Wang, please leave my phone number. If Dilong comes, you must inform me. Don't worry, I have no other meaning. I just want to ask him something. Fatty Wang patted his chest and said, Don't worry, brother. Your business is my business. If Dilong comes, I will inform you as soon as possible. After talking about the tripod, Qin Haodong walked around the basement again, but he didn't find anything good. They went out of the basement with the 9-dragon tripod. After returning to Fatty Wang's home, Qin Haodong first put the tripod in his car, then found a place where no one was and directly put it into the storage ring. Although he didn't find the expected ancient ruins in this trip to the antique street today, he found the 9-dragon tripod, which was quite rewarding, and he also found the clue of Dilong. After getting the 9-dragon tripod, he went to the wholesale market of medicinal materials and carried out a crazy sweep, which cost him more than 30 million yuan. The space in the storage ring was very large. He was now extremely rich, so it was good to store more medicinal materials. The preparation was done. After dinner, Qin Haodong took the little fellow to Daddy's security company. He didn't disturb Nalan Wushuang and Qi Waner. He went directly to the basement warehouse and told Zhang Tiniu to take people to guard the door. No one was allowed to enter before he came out. After the last raw stone was processed, the spacious warehouse seemed empty. The little fellow asked, Papa, what do you take me here to play? Qin Haodong said, Papa will show you a trick first, and then we will play something fun. Then he moved his mind, and the 9-dragon tripod appeared in the center of the warehouse. Great, great. Papa is great. The little fellow shouted happily, Papa, I also want to learn magic from you. You can't learn this now. When you grow up, I will teach you. Qin Haodong patted the little fellow's face and said, Tang Tang, let's play a game of refining medicine now, shall we? I like playing games best. Papa, tell me how to play. Qin Haodong opened the fire entrance of the 9-dragon tripod and said to the little fellow, You help Papa spit some fire into it. The little fellow opened her mouth and spat out a mass of innate fire into the 9-dragon tripod. Qin Haodong closed the fire entrance, then took out some of the cheapest medicinal materials and threw them into the 9-dragon tripod, constantly feeling the temperature of the innate fire. He had never used innate fire before, so he was not familiar with this kind of fire. After a short time, there was a muffled bang in the 9-dragon tripod, and all the medicinal liquid that had just melted in the furnace exploded. Fortunately, Qin Haodong had been mentally prepared, and immediately picked up the little fellow and avoided it. Fun. It's really fun. Papa, are you popping popcorn? The little fellow did not know that it was a failure in refining medicine, and clapped her little hands happily. Qin Haodong was speechless. He cleaned the 9-dragon tripod again and then said to Tang Tang, Tang Tang, throw less fire this time, just half of the last time. Okay, I will listen to Papa. The little fellow opened her mouth again and spat out a mass of innate fire into the furnace, but it was half the size of the last time. After that, he failed 3 times in a row, and Qin Haodong finally became familiar with the temperature of the innate fire and the use of the 9-dragon tripod. After the 5th refining, the fragrant medicine was finally out of the furnace. Qin Haodong reached out and caught the 9 white pills. There was a faint golden pattern on these pills. Good. It's really good. Qin Haodong was very satisfied. With the innate fire and the 9-dragon tripod, the elixir refined by him actually had elixir patterns. Although there was still a big gap from the 9 elixir patterns of the best elixir, it was still very commendable. In the cultivation world, the price of the medicine with the pattern was more than 10 times higher than that without the pattern. Papa, what's this? Smells good. Can you give one to me? Chapter 184. You're a foodie? Qin Haodong patted the little fellow's head and said, Tang Tang, remember that this is medicine. You can't take medicine indiscriminately. The 9 pills that he had just used as test subjects were called ecstasy pills. As long as one of them was crushed, it would be colorless and odorless, drifting in the air, and all living things within 100 meters would be intoxicated. Ecstasy elixirs were not popular elixirs in the cultivation world, but the materials were relatively cheap, so Qin Haodong chose to refine this kind of elixir when he practiced. Now that he was familiar with the nature of the innate fire and the 9-dragon tripod, he put away the 9 ecstasy elixirs and began to refine the spirit culturing elixirs. After a failure, Qin Haodong refined 9 spirit culturing elixirs. However, the higher the level of elixirs, the more difficult it was to refine. Compared with the low-level ecstasy elixirs, these 9 spirit culturing elixirs also had elixir patterns, but they were much dimmer. Next, he refined the spirit culturing elixirs one after another. The little fellow spat fire, collected the refined elixirs and put the elixirs into the jade bottle. She was very busy and had a good time. After refining 108 spirit culturing elixirs, Qin Haodong began to refine the spirit culturing elixirs. The spirit culturing elixir could help masters in the concealing strength stage to improve their cultivation. Its level was much higher than that of the soul separating elixir and the spirit culturing elixir, so it was more difficult to refine, and the medicinal materials needed were more precious. He carefully started the 9-dragon tripod. Fortunately, with the previous experience, the spirit culturing elixir was successful in one try, but the quality of the elixir was a little worse, and there were no elixir patterns. After that, he refined 3 more times in succession and collected a total of 36 spirit culturing elixirs. It was 10 o'clock in the evening when all these elixirs were collected. Qin Haodong put the 9-dragon tripod into the storage ring, patted the little fellow's face and said, "Tang Tang, are you tired?" "Not tired, it's fun," the little fellow said excitedly. Qin Haodong reached out to hold the little fellow's wrist and began to feel her pulse. He spat fire dozens of times tonight, and he was afraid that it would have a bad effect on the little fellow's body. However, he soon relaxed. Not only did spitting fire to refine pills not cause any harm to the little fellow, but it also made the Emperor Yen Heart Sutra in her body more stable. Although the total amount of true qi did not increase, it was much more condensed than before. It seemed that alchemy really did help to improve one's cultivation. After making sure that his daughter was fine, Qin Haodong carried the little fellow out of the underground warehouse and went to Nalan Wushuang's office. It was dark and there was no light. Did she leave? Qin Haodong thought as he went upstairs. There was no one in the living room, but there was a faint light coming from the kitchen. He walked over and saw Hu Shaoxian was busy in the kitchen. At this time, her hair was coiled on the top of her head, and a pink floral home dress couldn't hide her curvy figure. Her cheeks were white and tender, and her expression was quiet and serious. She looked like a little wife who was busy cooking for a man. There was a different kind of beauty in her. Qin Haodong couldn't help but stare at her. At this time, Hu Shaoxian stood up straight and stretched her waist. Suddenly, her whole body showed a kind of curvy beauty, vividly explaining what it meant to be protruding and concave, extremely sexy and attractive. "Have you seen enough? Do you want me to change your position again?" While speaking, she smiled at Qin Haodong. This smile was so bright that the whole kitchen seemed to add countless colors. Oh. Qin Haodong came to his senses and scratched his head awkwardly. He said, "Why haven't you left yet?" "I said that I will live here in the future. Why should I leave? This is the new home dress I bought today. Do you think it looks good?" Hu Shaoxian said as she turned in a circle in front of Qin Haodong, showing the pink home dress in all directions. "Looks good," Qin Haodong said subconsciously, completely forgetting that he was just driving her away. A burst of fragrance came, and Hu Shaoxian flew to his side like a beautiful butterfly. She whispered, "I also bought a few super sexy pajamas. I'll wear them for you later." Because they were very close, Hu Shaoxian's breath went directly into Qin Haodong's ears. Coupled with the tempting body fragrance, it made his heart full of weeds in an instant. It was like all kinds of weeds were growing. This woman was really seductive. Qin Haodong had deeply felt that no matter what Hu Shaoxian did, she could easily cause a wave in his heart. Hu Shaoxian said again, "You came back so late. Are you hungry? Try the love dinner I made for you." "I'm not hungry. I've already eaten." "Even if you're not hungry, you have to taste my cooking. I've been busy all day," Hu Shaoxian said as she held Qin Haodong's arm. The 2 towering mountains on her chest piled up on his arm, making him fully experience what was called amazing elasticity. His brain was still hesitating about whether to go in and have a taste, but his legs had already been out of control to the kitchen. There were 4 exquisite side dishes and a bowl of soup on the kitchen table. These dishes looked very ordinary, but bursts of fragrance went directly into Qin Haodong's nose. "Eat quickly. Are you afraid that I'll poison you? You're not Wu Dalong and I'm not Pan Jinlian." Hu Shaoxian said as she stretched out 2 white and tender fingers, directly grabbed a golden meat strip from the plate and sent it to his mouth. Qin Haodong opened his mouth subconsciously, and Hu Shaoxian directly sent the meat strip into his mouth. Her fingertips slid across his lips, but there was a ripple in his heart. Just as his heart was in a frenzy, a strong aroma began to fill his taste buds, stimulating his brain nerves. Qin Haodong began to close his eyes and slowly chewed the meat strip in his mouth, only feeling that his mouth was full of delicious taste. The meat strip made by Hu Shaoxian was definitely not ordinary beef. Every time he chewed there was a different taste. Some were fresh and tender and some were crisp and refreshing. There were all kinds of changes in the taste. In this way, after eating a meat strip, he was not satisfied. He opened his eyes and looked at the plate. After a closer look, he found that each beef strip was made up of 4 small meat strips. No wonder there were so many tastes. He couldn't help but pick up the chopsticks, picked up another meat strip and sent it into his mouth. How is it? Is it delicious? Hu Shaoxian bent down and stared at Qin Haodong. At the same time as she asked, a deep ravine with countless scenery rushed out from the collar of her home clothes, crazily raging Qin Haodong's eyes. Delicious, really delicious? Qin Haodong said as he stretched out his chopsticks to pick up more food, in order to divert the attention of his eyes. Otherwise he was really afraid that his nose would bleed, which would be a great shame. It had to be said that Hu Shaoxian's cooking was really good. Although Qin Haodong had already eaten in the evening, these dishes opened his taste buds. He couldn't help but eat up the 4 dishes and 1 soup like a gust of wind. I didn't know that your cooking was really good. Qin Haodong patted his belly with satisfaction and said, unfortunately, they are all meat dishes. There are a few vegetables and it tastes a little greasy. I don't know why I can only cook meat dishes. Vegetarian dishes all taste the same when they come out of my hands. They taste terrible. Hu Shaoxian took Qin Haodong's arm and said, I've been busy all day but I haven't eaten yet. Qin Haodong was embarrassed for a while. He had eaten too much just now. He had eaten all the dishes on the table but she hadn't eaten yet. Well, I'll make some dishes for you. Contrary to you, I can only cook vegetarian dishes. I'm not good at cooking meat. Qin Haodong said as he stood up, took out a few vegetarian dishes from the refrigerator and began to busy himself. His cooking skills were superb and his cooking methods were special. In less than half an hour, 4 vegetarian dishes were placed on the table, and there was a pot of fragrant porridge. Hu Shaoxian first picked up a barley vegetable in confusion and put it into her mouth. Then she ate it in big mouthfuls. Although she tried to maintain the image of a beautiful woman in front of Qin Haodong, these dishes were so delicious that she couldn't control her mouth at all. Chapter 185. Then she looked at Qin Haodong coquettishly and said, Little man, we are really a match made in heaven. You see, I'm good at cooking meat and you can make vegetarian dishes so delicious. It's a perfect match. If we open a restaurant together, it will be popular in the whole Jiangnan. Qin Haodong couldn't stand her fiery eyes, so he quickly changed the topic and said, It's getting late. Let's go to bed. It's all your fault. You made me pregnant. Hu Shaoxian stroked her belly and said, I just ate so much. I'll get fat when I sleep. Why don't we do some exercise together to digest it? You do it yourself. Qin Haodong looked embarrassed. Hu Shaoxian rolled her eyes at him and said, A big man is so timid. It's okay if you don't want to do exercise with me. I'm going to take a bath. I've been busy in the kitchen all day. I smell of smoke. After that, she twisted her sexy body and walked to the bathroom. Qin Haodong breathed a sigh of relief. In terms of appearance, Lin Momo would not lose to Hu Shaoxian, but he didn't know why this woman would stir up the fire in his body every time she raised her hand. He simply cleaned up the kitchen and then returned to the living room. He did eat a little too much just now. He originally wanted to turn on the TV to kill time. Unexpectedly, when he just sat on the sofa before he picked up the remote control, he heard a cry from the bathroom, Little man, go and get me a set of pajamas. I want the black one. Qin Haodong hesitated. It seemed a little inappropriate for a man like him to get pajamas for a woman. Hu Shaoxian seemed to see his mind and continued to cry, If you don't go and get it for me, I'll go by myself. I don't like to wear clothes anyway. Don't. Let me go. Qin Haodong came to the room where Hu Shaoxian lived and found that there were a lot of feminine decorations in the room. The whole style had changed and was full of femininity. He couldn't help but have a headache. It seemed that this woman really wanted to live here for a long time. It was really a kind of torture to live with such a woman. Just as he was thinking, Hu Shaoxian's cry came to his ears again, Have you found it? I want that black pajamas. Qin Haodong opened her wardrobe and found it full of all kinds of colorful women's underwear. There were dozens of lace and embroidered underwear. The black pajamas that Hu Shaoxian said were very easy to find, because there was only one black one in the whole wardrobe. But the material was a little too thin. What was the difference between wearing and not wearing? Qin Haodong took the pajamas to the bathroom, knocked on the door and said, I've brought you the clothes. Hu Shaoxian poked her head out of the bathroom and stretched out a white and smooth arm. Her cheeks were white and rosy after the bath. She looked particularly attractive, especially the outstretched arm. Her whole white shoulder and sexy collarbone were exposed, which made people have infinite reverie. The worst thing was that the bathroom door was frosted. Although he couldn't see it clearly, the vague outline was even more tempting. Qin Haodong lifted his clothes and stood at the bathroom door in a daze. Hu Shaoxian smiled and said, "Give me the clothes. Come in and have a look if you want to. I don't care anyway." Qin Haodong came to himself and quickly gave the pajamas to Hu Shaoxian. Then he turned around and ran back to the living room. What a vixen. As soon as he sat down on the sofa, Hu Shaoxian came over in the black gauze pajamas. The thin black gauze could not hide the charming scenery below at all. It only added to the temptation out of thin air. Suddenly, Qin Haodong felt hot in his nostrils. He finally knew what was the difference between wearing the gauze pajamas and not wearing them. It was more tempting to wear them than not. As a great man said, a woman wearing clothes was far sexier than being naked. What do you think? Is my pajama sexy? Does it look pretty? Do you want me to change into a bikini for you to see? Hu Shaoxian said, twisting her body in front of Qin Haodong. It seemed that she wanted him to appreciate her in all aspects. Qin Haodong quickly reached out to cover his nose and said, "No, this one is good." Hu Shaoxian said with some dissatisfaction, "You are so boring. I carefully chose the underwear for you." In order to ease the embarrassment, Qin Haodong took out a big spirit culturing pill and held it in his palm. "This is the elixir I refined. It's for you." Hu Shaoxian rolled her eyes at him and said coquettishly, "You are so bad. Isn't this enough? You even let me take medicine." Qin Haodong said, "This is the big spirit culturing pill I refined. It can improve your cultivation." He had reserved the elixir for Hu Shaoxian. Although he had not figured out the woman's purpose, she was the little fellow's savior. It was nothing to give her a pill. Really? As a member of the Shenyuan Pavilion, Hu Shaoxian knew very well how valuable the elixir that could improve the cultivation of warriors of covert power was. She reached out to take the big spirit culturing pill and said, "Anyway, I am destined to be yours. No matter what medicine it is, I will take it." Then she threw the pill directly into her mouth. The pill melted in her mouth. Soon, Hu Shaoxian felt a heat flow rising from her dantian. Then her genuine qi boiled like boiling water, and the speed of operation increased more than 10 times. What kind of elixir is this? How can the effect be so amazing? She had taken a lot of elixirs to improve her cultivation before, but the effect was much worse than that of the big spirit culturing pill. At this time she had no time to think about it. She sat cross-legged on the ground, ran her genuine qi, and began to break through to the second level of covert power. On the road of martial arts, the higher the cultivation, the more difficult it was to make progress. Hu Shaoxian was also a martial arts genius. She had entered the threshold of covert power very early, but she had been stuck in the second level of covert power for some time. But now with the help of the big spirit culturing pill, everything seemed to become simple. After the genuine qi ran 3 times, she vaguely heard a cracking sound in her body. Then the genuine qi in her body was more than twice as strong as before. The bottleneck of the second level of covert power, which she had failed to break through many times, was broken. Feeling Hu Shaoxian's momentum suddenly increased, Qin Haodong knew that she had broken through. He couldn't help but secretly sigh in his heart. This woman's cultivation was getting stronger and stronger, and the possibility of driving her away was getting smaller and smaller. Hu Shaoxian was ecstatic. She stood up and came to Qin Haodong. She stretched out a pair of white arms around his neck and said, "Thank you for the pill, little man." "How can I thank you? Do you want to marry me?" Qin Haodong swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The more powerful this woman's cultivation was, the stronger the temptation seemed to be. He quickly took 2 steps back and said, "It doesn't matter. It's just a pill. You're also the savior of my daughter." "You are so kind to your daughter," Hu Shaoxian said. She came to Qin Haodong again and said coquettishly, "How about I give birth to one for you?" "Oh, you have just broken through. You have to take the time to stabilize it. I'm going to sleep." After saying that, Qin Haodong ran back to his room and slammed the door. Hu Shaoxian smiled charmingly and murmured, "Shy little man, you can't run away from me." The next morning, Qin Haodong repeatedly told the little fellow not to reveal his secret. After that, he sent her to kindergarten and then came to Daddy's security company. As soon as he entered the yard, he saw that the training ground was very lively. All the members of the company were training here. What was different from the past was that everyone's face was full of joy after their cultivation had been improved. In the middle of the field, Ma Wenjue and Qi Wan-er were fighting. Compared with before, their momentum had been greatly improved and they had reached the second level of covert power. It seemed that the effect of the spirit culturing pill was really good. In one night, they had been promoted from the first level of covert power to the second level. The boss is here. Hello, boss. After seeing Qin Haodong, the members of the security company stopped what they were doing and looked at him with admiration and love. Ma Wenjue and Qi Wan also stopped fighting, but their behavior was completely different. Qi Wan stood there and looked at Qin Haodong with a complicated expression. Ma Wenjue ran over with a smile. It looks good. Your cultivation has been improved very fast. Qin Haodong said. Of course. Don't you see who I am? As long as there is no Qi girl, I am the best in the world. As Ma Wenjue said, he put his hand on Qin Haodong's shoulder and whispered, Brother, your pills are really good. They are much better than the small blue pills. Can you give me another 180 pills? Qin Haodong pushed him away and said, Do you think they are jelly beans? Another 180 pills. Those 10 pills are enough for you to cultivate to the supreme power realm. Take the next one after a few days when your cultivation is stable. Otherwise it won't work at all. After a pause he said, You have almost consolidated your cultivation during this time. Let's go now. That's great. I've been waiting for this day. Ma Wenjue said with a smile, Go to Shanghai to find me after a while. At that time, you will be the boss of the whole underground of Shanghai. Qin Haodong glared at him and said, I want you to open a security company, not to be a gangster. It's not much different. Anyway, I will definitely surprise you when the time comes. Then Ma Wenjue began to gather his 100 security guards. These people were ready to go. After receiving the order, they quickly gathered and left Jiangnan City with Ma Wenjue. From that day on, the underground world of Shanghai changed dramatically. There was a legend named Brother Ma. After sending Ma Wenjue and others away, Qin Haodong was about to talk to Qi Wan when 4 or 5 luxury cars drove into the security company. After the cars were parked, Qin Fugue and others got out first, and then Ouyang Shanshan got out of the car. Qin Haodong and Nailan Wushuang greeted them together and said with a smile, Superstar, why do you have so much time today? Ouyang Shanshan said, I'm here to talk to Sister Wushuang about business, but I also have something to talk to you about. Nailan Wushuang said, Sister Shanshan, let's talk in the office. After that, they walked into the office holding hands. Qin Haodong looked at them and shook his head secretly. Women were really strange creatures. At the beginning they quarreled with each other, but now they had become good sisters. After entering the office, the two chatted intimately, from the most popular cosmetics to the most fashionable clothes. They chatted intimately. Qin Haodong stared at them and couldn't help asking, Didn't you say that you have business to talk about? Nailan Wushuang glared at him and said, Don't you have to wait until we finish talking about business? Qin Haodong was speechless. He really didn't know what business was in the eyes of women. Chapter 186. Nailan Wushuang said, No problem. I'll give you the lowest price. After that, the two of them seemed to have changed from good sisters to business partners. One by one they discussed the cooperation matters. Finally, the cooperation contract was negotiated and signed by both parties. Qin Haodong listened for a long time and asked, Is it about me? If not, I'm going to work. Isn't the company yours? How come it's not about you? Nailan Wushuang glared at him and said, You don't want to be a good boss. You have to work for others. Qin Haodong said with embarrassment, I'm just a little doctor. It's more appropriate for you to be in charge of the company. Ouyang Shanshan said, Dr. Qin, I want to invite your daughter to my concert tomorrow. Is that okay? That's a good thing. Of course. Qin Haodong agreed without hesitation. On the one hand, he was happy to let his daughter participate in more activities. On the other hand, Ouyang Shanshan was the little fellow's idol. It was absolutely the happiest thing for his daughter to hold a concert with Ouyang Shanshan. But is it too late for the concert tomorrow night? It doesn't matter. Tang Tang is very talented. Send her to my company tomorrow morning. We'll rehearse for a day and she can go on stage in the evening. Well, it's a deal. Ouyang Shanshan said and took out 2 VIP tickets and gave them to Qin Haodong. These are the tickets for the concert. Come and watch our performance with Miss Lin. Okay, I'll go. Qin Haodong said and reached out to take the tickets, but Nailan Wushuang took them away first. Just give Miss Lin one. You don't need a ticket. Nailan Wushuang took back one of the tickets and gave the other to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong said in surprise, Why don't I need a ticket? Do I look like a child? Can I get a free ticket? Nailan Wushuang looked at him and smiled strangely. Because you are the security guard of our company. You just have to stand guard and keep order. You have no time to watch the performance. Oh, you want me to stand guard? Qin Haodong asked with a bitter face. Nalan Wushuang smiled and said, "Of course. Such a large concert is short of hands. Don't forget you are also a member of the company. You have to obey my command." All right then. Qin Haodong had no choice but to agree. At this time he was extremely regretful. If he had known earlier he would have asked Ma Wenjue and the others to leave 2 days later. After discussing the concert, Nalan Wushuang and Ouyang Shanshan continued to talk about fashion. Qin Haodong drove to Lin's group for work. When he was about to get off work he received a call from Wang Rubing. After answering the phone, Wang Rubing yelled, "You brat, you haven't called me for so many days. Have you forgotten your sister now that you have a wife?" "Sis, I've been too busy lately." Qin Haodong was indeed a little embarrassed. He had wanted to take his sister to his home, but he had been so busy these days that he forgot about Wang Rubing. "Then tell me, what have you been busy with?" Qin Haodong said, "In fact it's not a big deal. It's just that there are too many mosquitoes in the south of the Yangtze River recently. I'm in charge of family planning for them. The whole world is warming up and I'm keeping the Antarctic warm. Otherwise, if it really melts, we will have to sell our houses and buy ships." Seeing him talking nonsense with a serious face, Zhang Jijia spat out a mouthful of tea that he had just taken in his mouth. "Okay, I don't have time to listen to your nonsense." Wang Rubing directly interrupted Qin Haodong and said, "No matter what you have to do, you have to go to dinner with me tonight." "Dinner? Where are we going to eat?" Qin Haodong asked. "I've already reported to the sanitary bureau. Today the section chief invited me to dinner. Come with me." "Sister, it's not appropriate for me to go with a colleague who invites you to dinner, right?" Qin Haodong said. "What colleague? I don't think he has any good intentions towards me. He looks at me in a strange way. I'm afraid that he will do something bad to me if I go alone." Hearing this, Qin Haodong suddenly became interested and asked, "How old is your section chief?" "How do I know? He looks less than 30 years old. Is he handsome?" "Not bad. He's not ugly." Wang Rubing suddenly came to her senses and cried, "Why do you ask this?" Qin Haodong said, "Isn't he just right? Otherwise my aunt would be urging you to find a boyfriend. Although he's a little older, he's barely suitable. You can think about it." "Think about it, my ass. He's been married for several years and his son is running around." "Oh?" Qin Haodong's face suddenly became cold when he heard that the other party was already married and was still pestering Wang Rubing. "Sister, where are you now? I'll pick you up." "Come on, I'll wait for you at the gate of the sanitary bureau." Wang Rubing hung up after saying that. Qin Haodong called Lin Momo and asked her to pick up the little fellow. Then he drove directly to the sanitary bureau. When he arrived at the gate of the sanitary bureau, Wang Rubing, wearing a white dress, was already waiting there. Seeing the Lamborghini Centenario, Wang Rubing said in surprise, "Dong, you really have a sugar daddy. Is this the car your sister-in-law bought for you?" After asking Wang Rubing to get in the car, Qin Haodong said, "What are you talking about? Although your brother is handsome, I always rely on my ability. I earned this car by myself. It has nothing to do with others. This car is so beautiful." Wang Rubing stroked the luxurious interior of the Lamborghini and said, "Dong, you're really capable. I can't afford a sports car even if I don't eat or drink for a lifetime." "That's easy. I'll give you one tomorrow." Qin Haodong also had a Porsche 911 at home. He decided to give it to Wang Rubing. He said it seriously, but Wang Rubing took it as a joke and didn't take it seriously at all. After starting the car, he asked, "Where are we going?" Wang Rubing said, "The director said that the hotel is called Dreamy Jiangnan. Has he booked a room there?" "Oh, I see." Qin Haodong had been to Dreamy Jiangnan twice in the past few days, so he was very familiar with it. He drove directly there. After arriving at the hotel, they were led to an ordinary private room by the waiter. After all, the minimum consumption of a VIP room with a terrace was at least 6 figures, which was not affordable for ordinary people. The waiter politely opened the door, and Wang Rubing and Qin Haodong walked in together. "Rubing, here you are." There was a young man sitting in the private room, wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses and a neat suit. He looked very gentle and handsome, but his eyes looked extremely wretched. He was Niu Fei, the section chief mentioned by Wang Rubing. He was excited when he saw Wang Rubing, but then he saw Qin Haodong behind her, and his face suddenly became cold. "Rubing, didn't I say I wanted to have dinner with you alone? Who is this man?" Wang Rubing said, "Section Chief Niu, this is my cousin Qin Haodong. He just had no place to eat tonight, so he came with me." She was mentally prepared and introduced Qin Haodong and Niu Fei. Hearing that he was Wang Rubing's cousin, Niu Fei's expression suddenly eased a lot and he said, "Cousin, sit down quickly." Qin Haodong didn't say much and sat down next to Wang Rubing. "Little Qin, where do you work?" Niu Fei asked. "I'm a senior at Jiangnan Medical University, and I haven't graduated yet." Qin Haodong had come here twice in a row to the VIP room. He had never been to such an ordinary private room, so he looked around while talking. Compared with the VIP room of dreamy Jiangnan Hotel, the decoration of this ordinary private room was really not on the same level, but it was much more luxurious than ordinary hotels. However, in the eyes of Niu Fei, Qin Haodong was a bumpkin who had never seen a big scene. There was a trace of disdain in his eyes and he said proudly, "Little Qin, you haven't graduated yet. No wonder you haven't been to such a high-end place. I tell you, this dreamy Jiangnan Hotel is definitely the most high-end place in Jiangnan City. A meal will cost thousands of yuan, which ordinary people can't afford at all." Qin Haodong just smiled and did not speak. He came with Wang Rubing this time. As long as this guy didn't have any bad ideas about Wang Rubing, he didn't care. Soon, the waiter brought the wine and dishes to the table, and the three people began to eat. Niu Fei opened a bottle of red wine and frequently urged Wang Rubing to drink. Although Wang Rubing had some alcohol tolerance, she didn't drink with everyone. No matter how Niu Fei persuaded her, she just tasted it. However, Qin Haodong drank very happily. After a while, most of the bottle of red wine was in his stomach. Niu Fei glared at Qin Haodong discontentedly and said, "Little Qin, I think you're almost done eating. Why don't you go out for a walk? I have a few words to talk to your cousin alone." In his opinion, as long as Qin Haodong was sensible, he would give up the private room for him. However, Qin Haodong bowed his head and said vaguely while eating, "Chief Niu, you talk. I'll eat my food. Just pretend that I'm not here." "You?" Niu Fei glared at Qin Haodong fiercely, and his face was full of disgust. Wang Rubing said, "Chief Niu, my cousin grew up with me since he was a child. We have the best relationship. If you have anything to say, just say it." Niu Fei thought for a moment and no longer hid it. He said directly, "Rubing, to tell you the truth, since the day you came to report, I have taken a fancy to you and want you to be my lover." Qin Haodong still bowed his head and ate, but there was a flash of coldness in his eyes. This guy really didn't have a good intention for his cousin. Wang Rubing didn't expect Niu Fei to make such a request directly. She said with a cold face, "Chief Niu, don't you already have a wife and a son? For a man, marriage is marriage, family is family, and love is love." Niu Fei said plausibly, "What I value is you. Although I can't marry you, you have to believe that my feelings for you are absolutely true." This time, Qin Haodong was completely shocked. He had never seen a person who could say such shameless things so confidently. How thick-skinned this guy was. Niu Fei continued, "You won't suffer as my lover. You are still in the apprenticeship period. I can guarantee that you will become a regular employee as soon as possible, and you will have a good development in the future. At the same time, I will also take care of your brother's job after graduation. He can choose all the hospitals and departments in Jiangnan City. He can go wherever he wants." Wang Rubing said, "Chief Niu, these are not what I want and I can't agree to your request." Seeing that he was rejected for the second time, Niu Fei said with a sullen face, "Wang Rubing, don't forget that you are just a poor student from a small county. You have no background and no money in Jiangnan City. There is no way out at all." Chapter 187. This guy seemed to see Qin Haodong's position in Wang Rubing's heart, so he used him as a bargaining chip to threaten her again and again, which made him very unhappy. Wang Rubing was silent. She brought Qin Haodong to have dinner with her. She originally wanted to protect herself, but she didn't expect that she would implicate her brother. Niu Fei had a background in Jiangnan City, which was known to everyone in the unit. Otherwise, he would not be the section chief at the age of 30. Because of this, the threat just had an effect in her heart. It was a small matter that she couldn't become a regular employee, but she didn't want to implicate Qin Haodong and make him unable to graduate. It seemed that Niu Fei saw the change in Wang Rubing's heart. With a complacent smile, he continued, "You don't have to give me an answer in a hurry. Go back and think about it. In fact, it's not bad to be my lover. I'm young, energetic and handsome. The most important thing is that my family has a strong background and a broad career. You won't suffer if you follow me." Just when he said this, he felt a chill on his face. Qin Haodong poured the remaining half glass of red wine on his face. Niu Fei wiped the wine on his face and roared angrily, "He's crazy. Mom is crazy, what are you doing?" "Nothing. I just want to help you sober up so that you won't be overheated and keep talking nonsense. Qin Haodong said with a smile, don't think about it. I can give you the answer on behalf of my sister now. That is, get out of here as far as you can. Look at yourself in the mirror at home. Don't always come out to make a fool of yourself. Niu Fei patted the table and shouted to Wang Rubing, you two have to think about it. If you offend me, not only you can't become a regular employee, but he can't even get a graduation certificate. I advise you that a small person from a small place like you should behave with your tail between your legs. Otherwise you won't even know how you die in the end. Qin Haodong's face darkened and he said in a cold voice, so you have a strong background? Of course, otherwise how could I sit in the position of section chief so quickly? If you offend me at least in the health system, you will absolutely not be able to survive. Now I'll give you one last chance. Be my lover or get out of Jiangnan City. Niu Fei's face was arrogant, but with the wine on his face, it looked a little funny. How arrogant. Qin Haodong said coldly, I'll also give you a chance. Kneel down and apologize to my sister now, or I'll not only take off your hat, but also smash your job. Niu Fei laughed wildly and almost fainted. After laughing enough, he said to Wang Rubing, where did you find such a thing? Was he a fool or a madman? He wants me to kneel down and apologize. I'd like to see how you're going to take off my hat and smash my rice bowl today. Wang Rubing took Qin Haodong's words as words of anger. She pulled him and said, Dong, let's go. Why are you leaving? Qin Haodong asked Wang Rubing to sit down again. Then he took out his mobile phone from his pocket and dialed Pan Gaofeng's number. Pan Gaofeng was sitting at home watching TV. Seeing that it was Qin Haodong calling, he answered the phone and said, Dr. Qin, thank you so much for yesterday. If you hadn't discovered it, I really wouldn't have known that there was such a big loophole in the management of the mental hospital. I have dealt with this matter seriously. Ma Guoli has been expelled from the mental hospital and the management system has been re-improved. Qin Haodong said, Director Pan, let bygones be bygones. Now please come to room 305 of the dreamy Jiangnan Hotel. Hearing that he was asked to go to the hotel, Pan Gaofeng didn't think that Qin Haodong was going to invite him to dinner. He asked, Dr. Qin, what's the matter? You'll know when you come. Qin Haodong said lightly, well, my house is not far from there. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Pan Gaofeng hung up the phone, got dressed and went straight to the dreamy Jiangnan Hotel. Keep pretending. Keep pretending. Niu Fei looked at Qin Haodong with a sneer. This kind of trick to scare people doesn't work in front of me at all. You won't tell me that you're calling our Director Pan, will you? Qin Haodong said lightly, you're right. I was just calling Director Pan. Ha ha. Niu Fei laughed again and said, boy, how dare you say that you're calling our director? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? How could a little bumpkin from the county know our director? It's not that I look down on you, but you've never been to such a luxurious hotel in your life, have you? If I leave now, you and your sister can't even afford to pay for the meal. It's estimated that you have to wash dishes here this month. While he was talking, the door opened and a woman in a blue and white porcelain cheongsam came in from the outside, followed by a little waiter. It was Che Xiaoxiao, the general manager of the hotel. It had to be said that this woman was so beautiful and she was very good at dressing up. Her pretty face was so delicate that there was no flaw. The decent cheongsam perfectly combined her towering peaks and two slender long legs. Niu Fei's saliva almost flowed down when he looked at her. He had seen Che Xiaoxiao with his leader and knew that this woman was not ordinary. She had a great influence in the upper class of Jiangnan City. However, he was also very strange. Normally, Che Xiaoxiao wouldn't even look at him when he came to eat. Why did she come here in person today? Hello, Miss Che, Niu Fei took the initiative to stand up and say hello to Che Xiaoxiao, but Che Xiaoxiao didn't even look at him. She went directly to Qin Haodong and said, handsome boy, why don't you say hello to me when you come here? Qin Haodong said, you are so busy. I dare not disturb you. No matter how busy I am, I have to entertain you personally when you come here. Che Xiaoxiao said in a flirtatious manner, it's inconvenient for you to eat here. Today the number 1 VIP room is empty. You can go with me. Niu Fei was stunned and couldn't believe everything in front of him. He had only heard of the number 1 VIP room, but he had never been there. It was said that the consumption there was at least 6 figures. Who was this gigolo in front of him? Had he been to the VIP room? It was impossible. Qin Haodong said, no, Sister Xiaoxiao. We are dealing with something and will leave soon. As the general manager of the hotel, Che Xiaoxiao was extremely shrewd. She immediately understood that Qin Haodong had something to do, so she said, "Since you have something to do, I won't bother you anymore. But you have to leave this bottle of wine. It's a little gift from me." After that, she waved her hand, and the waiter behind her put a bottle of 1982 Lafite in front of Qin Haodong. "Little handsome boy, take your time. I'll go first. Call me if you need anything." Che Xiaoxiao nodded to Qin Haodong with a smile and then left with the waiter. After they left, Qin Haodong grabbed the bottle of 1982 Lafite and poured a glass for himself and Wang Rubing. "Sister, this is a bottle of wine that costs 100,000 yuan. How about you try it?" After that, he picked up the glass and took a sip. "It's not bad. It's much better than that bottle of red wine that costs thousands of yuan." Niu Fei had been stunned. He had just despised the poor boy who had no background. In the blink of an eye, the general manager of the dreamy Jiangnan Hotel took the initiative to greet him and gave him a bottle of red wine worth 100,000 yuan. This was definitely not a face that ordinary people could have. If that was the case, could it be that he was really calling his own bureau chief just now? Thinking of this, Niu Fei couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. If the director knew that he had violated a female subordinate who had just joined the work, he really couldn't be a section chief anymore. "Now let's go." Thinking of this, Niu Fei grabbed his bag and was about to leave. But before he stood up, the door opened and Director Pan Gaofeng came in from the outside. Director. Niu Fei was completely dumbfounded. He didn't expect that Qin Haodong really called their director. "Xiaoniu is also here." Pan Gaofeng nodded to him and then said to Qin Haodong, "Dr. Qin, what's the matter?" "Director Pan, please sit down and try this bottle of 1982 Lafite." Qin Haodong asked Pan Gaofeng to sit down and then filled the glass in front of him. Seeing all this, Niu Fei was so nervous that he was at a loss. After hesitating again and again, he finally whispered to Qin Haodong, "Brother Qin, can I apologize?" Qin Haodong picked up the glass and clinked with Pan Gaofeng. He drank up the wine in the glass, looked up at him and said, "I have given you a chance just now. Unfortunately, you didn't cherish it. It's too late to apologize now." Pan Gaofeng asked in surprise, "Dr. Qin, what the hell is going on? What apology? What's too late?" Qin Haodong directly took out his mobile phone and clicked on a video. It happened to be the video in which Niu Fei threatened Wang Rubing to be his lover. Niu Fei was shocked. Originally he wanted to deny it. He didn't expect that Qin Haodong had recorded everything. It seemed that Qin Haodong had already prepared for it. Pan Gaofeng was furious after watching the video. Niu Fei, who was usually sanctimonious, did such a thing, which was completely beyond his expectation. He shouted at Niu Fei angrily, "Bastard, from now on, you are no longer the section chief. Report to the Human Resources Department tomorrow." "Chief, Niu Fei's face was pale. He wanted to defend himself, but he couldn't say anything in the face of this video. At this time, his intestines were green with regret. He originally thought that Wang Rubing, who came from a small county, would be easy to deal with and would not have any background. He did not expect that her brother would call the director. Although their families had some background, it was not easy for them to get to the position of section chief. Now, not only did they not have the chance to do so, but they had also failed. Not only had he succeeded in breaking the rules, but he had also sent his hat flying. Qin Haodong frowned slightly. Obviously, he was not satisfied with the result. He said to Pan Gaofeng, "Director Pan, this guy doesn't just want to play tricks. He also threatens not to let my sister become a regular employee. At the same time, he also prevents me from getting the graduation certificate from the university. Isn't this too light?" Pan Gaofeng said with embarrassment, "Dr. Qin, I also know that his behavior is bad, but I am only the director of the sanitary bureau. My greatest authority is to remove him from his post and remove him from the team of the sanitary bureau. After all, he is in the city and I can't do anything about it." Then he whispered in Qin Haodong's ear, "Niu Fei has some background in the city. It's really not easy to fire him completely." After listening to Pan Gaofeng's words, Niu Fei immediately became confident. Anyway, things had been like this. The worst result was to remove him from his post. He stood up abruptly and shouted to Qin Haodong, "Boy, even if I leave the sanitary bureau, I can still work in other departments. Didn't you say that you would destroy my job? I'm waiting." In his opinion, Qin Haodong's biggest reliance was Pan Gaofeng, so he wanted to vent his dissatisfaction. He thought that no matter how powerful Qin Haodong was, he had no ability to fire him completely. Chapter 188. After that, he took out his mobile phone and dialed Mayor Li Changji's phone number. "Hello, Mayor Li, this is Qin Haodong. Li Changji said, Little Qin, I just have something to talk to you. During this time I asked someone to investigate your sister Wang Rubing. The little girl is cultured and organized. She is really capable. I still lack a secretary now. How about you let her be my secretary? Great, Mayor Li. I thank you for my sister. Qin Haodong said again, Mayor Li, there is another thing I want to trouble you to deal with. What's the matter? Tell me. Li Changji was very grateful to Qin Haodong for curing his injured leg. As long as Qin Haodong's request did not violate the rules, he was happy to do it. Here's the thing, Mayor Li. Qin Haodong told him what Niu Fei had just done from beginning to end. Bastard, there is such a person. Li Changji was originally a disciplinarian. He was upright and incorruptible. He couldn't bear this kind of thing most. He said, Little Qin, don't worry. I'll ask someone to do it right away. I will never tolerate this kind of black sheep. What? Mayor Li? Niu Fei felt like being struck by lightning. His whole body was fried. There was only one Mayor Li in Jiangnan City. Needless to say, he also knew who Qin Haodong was calling. He just wanted to vent his anger, but he didn't expect that it would lead to such a serious consequence. He thought that Qin Haodong's biggest reliance was Pan Gaofeng, who knew that in a twinkling of an eye, a phone call was made to Mayor Li Changji. Li Changji was a famous white-faced Mr. Bao. There was no room for him to ease this kind of thing. Even the background of his family was useless. Sure enough, it didn't take long for his mobile phone to ring. Niu Fei pressed the answer button with a trembling hand. Soon his mobile phone fell to the ground with a clatter and broke into pieces. Then he collapsed on the chair with a pale face. There was only one thing on the phone just now. He was completely fired. Looking at Niu Fei's pale face, Pan Gaofeng couldn't help shaking his head secretly. He wouldn't die if he didn't court death. Niu Fei should have left with his tail between his legs after he was just dismissed. Who knew that he had to provoke Qin Haodong? This family was completely dead. They had destroyed their own official career path. At the same time, he was extremely shocked. He didn't expect that the young man in front of him could talk directly to Mayor Li. His power was really frightening. Niu Fei staggered out. Pan Gaofeng said, Dr. Qin, I didn't expect Xiao Wang to be your sister. You can rest assured that she will be in the sanitary bureau in the future. I will take good care of her. Thank you for your kindness, Chief Pan. Qin Haodong said, just now Mayor Li asked my sister to be his secretary. She will report to him tomorrow. I'm going to inform Director Pan now. After that, he turned to Wang Rubing and said, Sister, Mayor Li just asked you to be his secretary. I agreed for you directly. Of course, Wang Rubing would not object to such a good thing, but the happiness came too suddenly, and she could not accept it for a while. Pan Gaofeng was shocked. Not everyone could be the mayor's secretary. Although the rank was not high, the position was very important, so there was a saying that it was the number 2 chief among the people. He just threw out an olive branch and said that he would help Qin Haodong take care of his sister. He didn't expect that Qin Haodong would become the mayor's secretary in the blink of an eye. Not only did he not need to take care of her, but he had to go through Wang Rubing if he wanted to see Mayor Li in the future. He said to Wang Rubing, Xiao Wang, congratulations. It seems that I need you to take care of me in the future. You're welcome, Director Pan. It's all my brother's credit. Wang Rubing came to her senses and said to Qin Haodong gratefully, Thank you. She knew very well that she had only met Li Changji once at home, and it was because of Qin Haodong. If her brother had not been there, he would never have used her as a secretary. Qin Haodong said with a smile, You don't have to thank me. Although I recommended you to Mayor Li, he has strictly inspected you. If you are not qualified, Mayor Li would not have used you as a secretary. Then he looked at Pan Gaofeng and said, Am I right, Director Pan? As an official, Pan Gaofeng naturally knew the key. He nodded quickly and said, Yes. Yes, Dr. Qin is right. After that, they sat for a while and drank up the 1982 La Fight before leaving the dreamy Jiangnan Hotel. After leaving the hotel, Pan Gaofeng left alone, and Qin Haodong drove Wang Rubing home. Thank you very much for what you did today. Wang Rubing said again. Without Qin Haodong's help today, Niu Fei's matter would not have been solved so smoothly, and she would not have been able to become the mayor's secretary. Don't be polite to me. We are brother and sister. You always say that I robbed your food when I was a child. Now it's my duty to help you do something. Qin Haodong glanced at Wang Rubing with a smile and said, A girl changes 18 times before she reaches adulthood. She was a dry little bean sprout in those days, but now she has grown up like a flower and someone can chase her. Wang Rubing glared at him and entered the bickering mode again. She said, "Who are you calling a little bean sprout? Although you robbed me of half of my food, I was born beautiful. When I went to college, the people who chased me could form a few streets. Don't be angry when I say you are fat. Since there are so many people chasing you, why don't you bring a boyfriend back to show your aunt? That's because I have high standards. Ordinary people can't enter my eyes." "That's true. You grew up with a handsome guy like me, so naturally, other men won't be able to enter your eyes. However, I have to advise you not to use my standards to choose a boyfriend. Otherwise you'll end up alone." "Bullshit." Wang Rubing reached out and pinched Qin Haodong's soft ribs hard. "Don't. I'm driving." After they quarreled for a while, Qin Haodong asked, "Sister, where do you live now?" "I arrived in Jiangnan City the day after you came back. I rented an apartment. It's not easy to rent a house in Jiangnan City. Not only is the rent expensive, but it's also very difficult to find. It took me a lot of effort to find this house." Wang Rubing told Qin Haodong her address. Qin Haodong wanted to ask Wang Rubing to live in his home, but he thought of Hu Shaoxian, who he couldn't drive away, so he didn't say it. Otherwise the two women might make trouble if they lived together. It would be better to wait for a while. Soon he sent Wang Rubing home and they went upstairs together. The apartment looked very clean and tidy. Although it was not luxurious, it was warm. The apartment Wang Rubing rented was one bedroom and one living room. There was a big bed in the bedroom, a sofa and a small computer desk in the living room. Although the house was not big, it was in a good location. It was located in the prosperous area of Jiangnan City. In this area, where every inch of land was expensive, the lowest price would be more than 2 million. Qin Haodong looked around, then sat down on the sofa and said, "The room is well cleaned. It seems that my aunt didn't educate you in vain." Wang Rubing took out 2 bottles of Coke from the refrigerator and threw one to Qin Haodong. She opened the other one and took a big sip. Then she said, "I'm a lady, unlike you, a pig. You are dirty all day and make a mess everywhere you go." "I'm not dirty. I take a bath every day." Just speaking of this, Qin Haodong suddenly remembered that he had fallen asleep without taking a bath because of Hu Shaoxian last night. Now his body was a little sticky and uncomfortable. But he was a little scared when he thought of going home to take a bath. He was afraid that Hu Shaoxian would get into his bathroom again when he was taking a bath. That woman's temptation was getting more and more lethal. Speaking of this, he said to Wang Rubing, "Sister, I'll take a bath here first and then go home." "Why don't you go home and take a bath? There's no water at home." Of course, Qin Haodong couldn't say that he was scared by a beautiful woman. He walked into the bathroom and began to take off his clothes. He grew up with Wang Rubing. They had lived together for a long time, so he didn't feel embarrassed about taking a bath. Soon he finished taking a bath and put on his clothes again. But before he walked out of the bathroom, he heard the sound of the door lock turning. Wang Rubing had just changed into a set of comfortable pajamas and was sitting on the sofa watching TV. When she heard the sound of the door lock, her body suddenly tightened. She rented this room by herself and didn't cooperate with anyone. The owner was still in the house, but someone opened the door with a key. She instinctively thought that there was a bad guy coming. But when she thought that Qin Haodong was in the bathroom, her nervousness was relieved a lot. Qin Haodong walked out of the bathroom and looked at Wang Rubing. Then he made a gesture of silence and quietly hid at the door. If someone really came in with bad intentions, he would immediately take action and put them down. As soon as he hid, the door was opened from the outside and a middle-aged man came in. The man's face was pale and his steps were weak. Although he was 1.8 meters tall, he was so thin that he looked like a skeleton. Obviously he was so thin, but he liked to open the chest of his shirt and show the tattoos inside. He looked like a gangster. When Qin Haodong was about to take action, he heard Wang Rubing say, "Mr. Landlord, why are you here?" Since Wang Rubing knew this man, he didn't rush to take action. He wanted to see what the landlord was doing here at night. The landlord smiled and kept his eyes on Wang Rubing's sexy body. He said, "I come to see how my house is. You know, some people are of low quality now and will ruin the house." Wang Rubing said angrily, "Mr. Landlord, you can check the house, but you should tell me in advance. You can't come in like this, can you? Besides, I live alone in this house. How can I feel safe when you come in at night?" The landlord said with a sinister smile, "Why not? Look at me. Do I look like a bad guy?" Wang Rubing said, "It's not a question of who looks like a bad guy. There are rules for renting a house. Since the house has been rented to me, you shouldn't have the key in your hand, and you shouldn't open my door at night." The landlord said disdainfully, "What kind of rule is that? Although the house is rented to you, it is mine. I can have as many keys as I want and I can come in whenever I want. While speaking, his eyes were still fixed on Wang Rubing's high chest, and he kept swallowing. His wretched look was very annoying. Nonsense, how can you rent a house like this? Don't you know how to respect other people's privacy? Wang Rubing was really angry. She lived alone in this room and the door was the last security. If the landlord, a man, could come in at any time, the consequences would be very dangerous. Chapter 189. You've gone too far. Wang Rubing said angrily, I'll call the police now and let them judge. Calling the police will hurt our friendship. Let's talk about it. Hearing that Wang Rubing was going to call the police, the landlord's tone softened a lot. Although the police couldn't do anything to him, they would ruin his plan. Actually, I'm here to discuss something with you today, the guy said and walked into the room. Wang Rubing was blocking the door, but if she continued to stand there, the landlord would hit her chest. She had to get out of the way in the face of such a hooligan. Until now, the landlord didn't see Qin Haodong behind the door. He sat on the sofa in the living room and said, How is it? This house isn't bad, right? Wang Rubing said with a cold face, It was good, but if you go on like this, I'll consider checking out. Why do you want to check out when you're living well? Let me tell you, my house is clean, tidy and well lit, but it's not easy to find one. I'm here today to have a look and to inform you of one thing. What is it? Tell me. Wang Rubing asked. The rent is too low. I've decided to raise it by 500 yuan a month. Another 500 yuan? Wang Rubing said angrily, How can you do this? I've just rented this house for less than 10 days. We signed a contract. Even if you want to raise the price, you have to wait until the contract expires. The landlord sneered and said, What's the use of a contract? That thing is too hard to wipe your ass. The house is mine. I can rent it for as much as I want and raise the price if I want. If you don't want to rent it, there are many people who want to rent my house. Wang Rubing said angrily, You're so unreasonable. I just moved in and you want me to find another house. How can you rent a house like this? The landlord seemed to want this effect. He smiled and said, Of course, if you don't want to raise the price, you have to promise me one thing. What is it? Wang Rubing asked subconsciously. She had just left school and had little social experience. She didn't know how sinister people were. Qin Haodong had seen through the landlord's dirty mind. This guy must be thinking about his sister. However, he was not in a hurry to act. He wanted to wait for the landlord to show his foxtail, and then he would kill him once and for all. Pregnant. Chop meat landlord, he smiled and said, Actually, it's very simple. You just need to roll with me tonight. Sheets, let's talk about life in depth. Rent is not a problem at all. As long as you can make me happy, I won't take your money in the future. Bastard, get out of my sight. Wang Rubing was completely infuriated by the rogue landlord. The landlord didn't leave. Instead, he sneered, Little girl, why do you have to do this? You're just a poor girl from a county town. What right do you have to pretend in front of me? If you had the money, you would have bought a house long ago. Why would you still need to rent a house here? To be honest, I fell in love with you the day I rented this apartment. As long as you are willing to be my lover, you can stay in this apartment forever. Actually, since you're so pretty, you're a resource in and of itself. Why should you keep it and not use it? Women and men will have that kind of thing sooner or later. It's the same for everyone. You might as well use it now to exchange for some money. Get out of here or I'll call the police. Wang Rubing picked up the phone next to her. Call the police? The landlord sneered, Let me tell you, little girl, I work in both the illegal and the illegal in Jiangnan City. The police are all my buddies. It's useless for you to call the police. And my cousin is the boss here. As long as I'm not satisfied with you, maybe you'll disappear from Jiangnan City tomorrow. Then it'll be too late for you to regret. As he spoke, he looked at Wang Rubing obscenely and kept swallowing. It seemed that he couldn't wait to throw Wang Rubing on the bed directly. Little girl, you can save thousands of yuan by sleeping with me for a month. What a good deal. As he spoke, he automatically imagined the scene of rolling with Wang Rubing. A look of excitement appeared on his skinny face when he saw the image of the bedsheet. If I pay you to sleep with a pig, will you? Qin Haodong's cold voice came from behind the door. The landlord was shocked. He didn't expect that there was a man hiding in this room. When he saw Qin Haodong's appearance, he immediately became confident. This was just a toy boy. He scolded arrogantly, Who the F***ck are you? Who the F***ck are you? How dare you come here and ruin my plan? Who am I? I'm your father. Qin Haodong looked at the landlord coldly. If he hadn't happened to come to Wang Rubing's place today, The consequences would be unimaginable if the landlord touched his sister. The landlord said to Wang Rubing, "I've already told you that this house is only rented to you. No messy people are allowed to come in. How dare you bring a wild man back?" "Bullshit. This is my brother. How can he be a wild man?" Wang Rubing was completely provoked by the landlord. She even burst out with foul language. She said, "Besides, when did you say that this house is only for me? If so, how can I rent your shabby house?" Qin Haodong came to Wang Rubing and said, "Sister, there's no need to reason with this scum." He turned to look at the landlord and said in a cold voice, "Now I'll give you a chance. Apologize to my sister and get out of here immediately." "Boy, how dare you ask me to get out? You're really arrogant. Believe it or not, I'll call some brothers to beat you until your mother can't recognize you." Speaking of this, the landlord seemed to feel that his power was not enough. He suddenly tore his shirt and revealed a snake-shaped tattoo on his chest. "Toy boy, don't you see that I'm a gangster? Get out of here if you want to live. I'm going to F***ck this chick today." Facing this idiot, Qin Haodong had lost his patience. Before the landlord finished speaking, he slapped him in the face. Although he didn't use his internal force in this slap, it was still powerful. The landlord flew out and hit the wall on one side. Then he fell to the ground with a thud. The landlord was completely stunned. He raised his head and shook it. He spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood mixed with his teeth. Then he pointed at Qin Haodong and roared, "Boy, how dare you F***ck me? Don't you know that my cousin is the big boss of the gangsters in Jiangnan City? He can sink you into the river to feed the fish with a flick of his finger." "Big boss? I'll beat you into a pig's head today." Qin Haodong really had enough of this idiot. He punched and kicked the landlord, making him roll on the ground and cry for his parents. "Bastard, how dare you act like a hooligan? How dare you enter a girl's room at night? How dare you rent a house and keep the key?" He grabbed the landlord's long hair and slapped him in the face. Soon the guy changed from Monkey King to second senior brother. His cheeks were swollen. His mouth seemed to be stuffed with 2 big steamed buns. His eyes were swollen like a panda. After a while, Qin Haodong was also tired. He threw the landlord on the ground, then squatted down and asked, "How about it? Do you know you're wrong?" The guy's head was now completely swollen. He tried to open his swollen eyes, pointed at Qin Haodong and shouted, "Boy, how dare you hit me? Wait and see. My cousin is the big boss of the gangsters. Old man, you're quite stubborn. Let's see how long you can be stubborn." Qin Haodong smiled coldly. He grabbed the landlord's ankle and lifted him up. He strode to the bathroom and directly put him into the toilet bowl. Then he pressed the flush button. With a splash, the cold water poured down the landlord's head. The landlord struggled to climb out of the toilet bowl, but Qin Haodong stepped on it. Soon, the landlord's entire head was completely submerged. He couldn't breathe. Although he desperately struggled with his hands and feet, it was useless under Qin Haodong's control. After about a minute, Qin Haodong gently lifted the guy out of the toilet bowl with his right hand and threw him on the floor of the bathroom. The landlord finally breathed some fresh air. He gasped and coughed and spat out some water from time to time. Qin Haodong lifted his chin with the tip of his foot and asked, "How about now? Do you know you're wrong? Are you looking for death? Do you know who I am? My cousin is the boss of the underworld. I'll kill you sooner or later." Qin Haodong didn't know if this guy was out of his mind. He dared to yell at Qin Haodong and mention his cousin, who was the boss of the underworld. "It seems that you're not sober enough. The punishment is too light. You don't realize your mistake at all," Qin Haodong said as he grabbed the landlord's ankle again. He put his head into the toilet bowl again and pressed the flush button. This time, the landlord's entire head was immersed in the water for a longer time than last time. The landlord was completely stunned. As soon as he opened his mouth, he would immediately choke into the cold water. The lack of oxygen in his chest made him feel so painful that he felt like his chest was about to explode. Looking at the landlord who was struggling desperately, Wang Rubing said with some worry, "Brother, will you be okay?" Although she also hated the rogue landlord, she was afraid that Qin Haodong would kill him on impulse. That would be big trouble. Qin Haodong said, "Don't worry. He can't die as long as I'm here." Indeed, as the Emperor Greenwood, he could completely control the life and death of the landlord. If he wanted him to live, he could live. If he wanted him to die, he could die. Slowly, the landlord stopped struggling and his whole body became stiff. Qin Haodong threw him to the ground and then kicked him in the stomach. The landlord spat out a few mouthfuls of saliva, and then he could breathe again. He panted heavily and looked at Qin Haodong with fear in his eyes. At that moment he felt so close to death and thought that the young man was really going to drown him. How about it? Do you know you're wrong now? Qin Haodong had no mercy for the landlord at all. If he was not here today, he could imagine how the landlord would treat Wang Rubing. You can't reduce the cost of a bad guy's crime just because he didn't succeed. Otherwise he would never learn from it and only the good guys would be hurt. I'm wrong. I know I'm wrong. I won't do it again. The landlord was weak and lay on the ground like a dead dog. He thought he was going to die just now. Qin Haodong's cruelty was far beyond his imagination. If he dared to say no again, he might really drown in the toilet. Qin Haodong said, "Not to me but to my sister." The landlord hurriedly said to Wang Rubing, "Xiaowang, I'm sorry. It's my fault today. I won't dare to come here again." Wang Rubing said angrily, "I've never seen a landlord like you. I'll move tomorrow and never live in your shabby house again." Chapter 190. Wang Rubing said in surprise, "How can I live here with such a rogue landlord? We always bully hooligans. How can we be bullied by hooligans?" Qin Haodong said, "Since you think the landlord is not good, let's become the landlord ourselves." Become the landlord ourselves? Wang Rubing didn't understand what Qin Haodong meant. Although she liked the house and lived in it comfortably, it would cost about 2 million yuan, which was not what she could afford now. Qin Haodong said, "Yes, since you want to live here, let's buy the house so that the bastard landlord won't harass you." Buy it? The landlord won't sell it, will he? Wang Rubing had recently learned about the houses nearby. The location was very good and the rent was high. Normally the landlord would never sell it. "Don't worry, he will sell it." Qin Haodong turned to the landlord and said, "My sister wants to buy your house. Will you sell it or not?" The landlord shook his head and said, "Little brother, I rely on this house to make a living. I really can't sell it." Although he was born and raised in Jiangnan City, he only had 5 or 6 houses in his hands. Moreover, this house was in the best location. Not only was the rent high, but there was also a lot of room for appreciation. If he sold it, he would lose an old hen that could lay golden eggs. He spent his days drinking and whoring. Gambling and gambling depended on the rent. If he sold the house, he wouldn't be able to live so comfortably. "You don't want to sell it?" After saying that, Qin Haodong grabbed the landlord's ankle, lifted him up, and brought him to the top of the toilet again. Thinking of the taste of death just now, the landlord was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly shouted, I'll sell it, I'll sell it. Little brother, put me down." Although the house was good, his life was more important. He was afraid that Qin Haodong would drown him if he couldn't control himself. Then he would have nothing. Qin Haodong threw the landlord on the ground again, turned to Wang Rubing and said, "You see, I said he would sell it." He said to the landlord, "Tell me, how much is your house?" The landlord said, "The normal market price of my house is 2.5 million yuan." Qin Haodong stared and said, "Isn't 2.5 million a stupid number? Are you stupid or am I?" Then 2.4 million, for is not auspicious. Then 2.3 million, the landlord was about to cry. His heart was bleeding every time he lost 100,000 yuan. That was a lot of money. How many girls would he find if he went out to look for? He's regretting it now. Why did he come here tonight? 2.3 million is too much. Why don't you just rob someone? The skinny landlord looked bitter and said with a crying voice, "Brother, my house is in a prime location. Is it really worth that much? How about 2 million, no less?" 2 million is still too much. Let's deduct a little more. How about 15 million? The landlord gritted his teeth and said. Qin Haodong raised his hand and hit him on the head. "I told you to deduct a little. Why did you deduct 50,000? Are you kidding me? Big brother, how much do you want?" The landlord was completely dumbfounded. He had come to be a hooligan, but he didn't expect that the other party was even more of a hooligan than him. It was a robbery. "Didn't I say 220,000 after deducting a point?" "What? You mean a decimal point?" The landlord burst into tears. It was the first time for him to see someone bargain like this. It was too violent to directly deduct a decimal point. 220,000 yuan couldn't even buy a toilet. It was faster than robbing a bank. "What? You don't want to?" Qin Haodong asked. "Of course not. You're not buying a house. You're robbing money." At this time, the landlord didn't care about being thrown into the toilet. 220,000 yuan to buy his house was like killing him. Qin Haodong raised his hand and slapped him in the face. "Are you selling or not? You're not buying a house at all. You're robbing money. If I don't agree, you beat me. You're forcing me to buy a house. Is there any justice? The landlord felt wronged. He came here to be a hooligan, but he didn't expect to be bullied like this. Qin Haodong said lightly, "How dare you talk about justice? When you sneakily opened the door of my sister's room, did you ever think that God was watching you? When you wanted to force my sister to do that kind of thing, did you ever think about justice? Now you want to talk about justice. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. Tell me, are you selling or not?" Looking at Qin Haodong's cold face, the landlord was scared to death. He wanted to say no, but he was afraid of being beaten. But he was unwilling to sell. Suddenly, he thought of something and said, "Big brother, this house is not entirely mine. My cousin has shares. I can't make the decision alone. If you really want to buy it at this price, I'll call my cousin here and you can talk about it." "Okay, I'll give you a chance. Call your cousin here and talk about it now." Of course, Qin Haodong knew what the landlord was thinking. He wanted to call his cousin, who was a gangster, to deal with him. But he didn't care at all. Moreover, if he didn't deal with the landlord and meet his cousin, who was known as the leader of the underworld, his sister wouldn't be able to live well here in the future. She would inevitably be harassed by those gangsters. It would be easy to get rid of them once and for all. "Are you sure you want to call my cousin here?" The landlord couldn't believe his ears. "Of course. Hurry up. My time is precious." Qin Haodong said to Wang Rubing, "Sister, you print a house sale contract first. We'll sign it when he comes." Wang Rubing really didn't understand what Qin Haodong was going to do. How could he directly ask for help? But out of trust for her brother, she went back to the house to make the contract. The landlord took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. After the phone was connected, he said, "Cousin, someone wants to buy our house for 220,000 yuan. Hurry up and come and have a look." "Yes, I'm here now. If the deal doesn't go through, don't let me go." Soon he hung up the phone and said to Qin Haodong, "My cousin will definitely come in 10 minutes. After finding a backer, this guy was obviously more confident. He secretly swore in his heart that after his cousin dealt with this gigolo, he would definitely get that chick on his bed and vent the anger in his heart. 5 minutes later, Wang Rubing brought 2 copies of the printed contract to Qin Haodong. The other parts had been printed, but the price part was still empty. She needed to fill it in manually later. Good. After a brief look, Qin Haodong nodded. At this moment, with a bang, the door was kicked open from the outside. Then a big man with a wolf head tattoo on his chest rushed in from the outside, followed by a dozen gangsters with steel pipes and machetes. After entering the door, he shouted arrogantly, "Who the hell has the guts to bully my cousin? Cousin, you're finally here. I was almost beaten to death." The skinny landlord finally saw his family. He immediately crawled over and hugged the wolf's thigh. He cried with tears and snot all over his face, feeling wronged. "Who the hell are you?" Wolf looked at the pig head under his feet and asked. The landlord said pitifully, "Cousin, I'm Lao Lu. I was beaten by that guy." Wild Wolf immediately flew into a rage and shouted, "Who is it? Who beat you like this? Tell me, I'll twist his head off for you to kick as a ball." Before the landlord could speak, Qin Haodong said, "I beat him. Let's see how you twist my head off." "Who the hell are you talking to?" Wolf stopped abruptly as if he was strangled in the middle of his words. He never dreamed that the person in front of him turned out to be Qin Haodong. After the incident with Dong Chao last time, he deliberately inquired about Qin Haodong's background. Only then did he know that this young man was a distinguished guest of Long Haisheng, who cured the great dragon's son who had been ill for many years. This scared him to death. Fortunately, Dafei came in time. Otherwise, if he really beat Qin Haodong, Long Haisheng would directly throw him into the river to feed the fish. Since then, he told his gangsters that if they saw Qin Haodong, they should hide as far as possible and never provoke him. He didn't expect to meet Qin Haodong today. He quickly put on a flattering smile and came to Qin Haodong. He said respectfully, "Dr. Qin, why are you here?" Qin Haodong was amused. He and this guy were really destined to meet again in just a few days. But this was good because he didn't have to do it again. He sneered and said, "Wolf, whose head did you just say you were going to twist off and kick as a ball?" Wolf shivered with fear. He didn't dare to provoke this young man. He quickly said, Dr. Qin, you misunderstood me. I mean, whoever dares to make you angry, I will twist off his head and kick it as a ball." The 6th landlord was completely dumbfounded. His cousin had always been very overbearing. Why did he suddenly become like a kitten when he saw this young man? Could he still be his backer? He couldn't help but have a bad hunch. It seemed that things were going to be troublesome today. Really? Qin Haodong glanced at Wolf and said with a playful face, Wolf, I just heard that you are now the leader of the underground world in the south of the Yangtze River? Is there such a thing? No, absolutely not. Wolf was so scared that he almost wet his pants. Although he also had some status in the underground world in the south of the Yangtze River, and he also had hundreds of brothers and several places to make money, he was still far away from Long Haisheng. He didn't deserve the title of the underground leader. If these words reached Long Haisheng's ears, he was afraid that he would be dead on the street tomorrow morning. He now knew the relationship between Qin Haodong and Long Haisheng, so he quickly explained, Dr. Qin, don't listen to people's nonsense. Everyone knows that there is only one leader in the south of the Yangtze River. I just make a living under Brother Long. Qin Haodong said, Oh, maybe I heard wrong. Your cousin just said several times that you are now the underground leader of the south of the Yangtze River. Bastard. Who told you to spout such nonsense? Wolf pointed to the sixth landlord and shouted to his two gangsters, Come on, open your mouth and let him talk shit. Cousin, don't hit me, cousin. I just have nothing to do. *CK. The sixth landlord felt extremely wronged. He really just wanted to brag. *CK to scare Qin Haodong, so he said Wolf's identity as the underground leader. *CKU. 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 People always cheat their fathers and grandfathers. How can you cheat your cousin like this? Wolf shouted with hatred. Beat him. Beat him with all your might. Chapter 191. Seeing that old Six's head was swollen again, Wolf turned back and said with a flattering face, Dr. Qin, please don't tell Brother Long about this. Let's not talk about this first. Let's talk about us first. Qin Haodong pointed to the broken door and said, This is my sister's door. You just broke it. What do you think I should do? Well, I'll pay for it. How much do you want? I'll pay for it. Wolf said hurriedly. Well, seeing that your attitude is not bad, I'll compensate you with 1 million. Qin Haodong was not polite to people like Wolf. Although Wolf was like a dog in front of him, if he was an ordinary person he would definitely be killed by him today. At this time, the landlord old Six got up from the ground and said, Cousin, this house is mine. Even if the door is broken, you don't have to pay for it. Get the fuck out of here. Who allowed you to talk? Wild Wolf kicked old Six's stomach hard and directly knocked him to the ground. He hated his cousin now. If it weren't for him he wouldn't have met Qin Haodong. Looking back, Wolf suddenly had a bitter face. He said, Dr. Qin, is this door a little too expensive? The door is not expensive, 100 yuan, but it just scared my sister. You have to pay 999,900. Qin Haodong said with a cold face, What? Don't you think my sister is worth the price? Yes, absolutely. I'll pay for it. Wolf didn't dare to offend Qin Haodong now. He could only grit his teeth and pay for it. He had already cursed 18 generations of the landlord's ancestors in his heart. As long as you think it's worth it. Qin Haodong took a bank card from Wang Rubing, threw it to Wolf and said, Transfer the money. Wolf had no choice but to take out his mobile phone and transfer 1 million yuan to Wang Rubing. After hearing the text message, Qin Haodong nodded with satisfaction and said to Wild Wolf, That's it. Let's talk about the house. I just wanted to buy this house with your cousin. He said that you have shares in it, so I need your consent. Wolf was full of anger. He turned back to the landlord and said angrily, It's your blessing that Dr. Qin bought your house. Why are you still hesitating? Sell it quickly. The landlord said, Cousin, my house is worth more than 2 million yuan, but he only gave me 220,000 yuan. That's too little. Qin Haodong said, Wild Wolf, I think the price of 220,000 is very fair. What do you think? No, Dr. Qin, I think the price is still too high. Please round it up and give him 200,000 yuan. Wild Wolf now hated the landlord to the core. He had just lost 1 million yuan, so in the blink of an eye, he had lost another 20,000 yuan. Landlord Old Six was completely dumbfounded. The backer he found actually helped the other party haggle the price. He said with a bitter face, Cousin, my house is worth more than 2,150,000 yuan. Wild Wolf cut another 50,000 yuan in the blink of an eye. Cousin, how can you do that? How can it be less? The landlord was suddenly stunned. 100,000 yuan? Wild Wolf said coldly. Landlord Old Six now understood what was going on. His cousin could not afford to offend the other party. He hurriedly cried, Cousin, don't shout. Don't shout. I'll sell this house for 100,000 yuan. He felt that if he didn't sell it quickly he would lose 100,000 yuan. Maybe he would have to give away a house for free and then compensate the other party. That's it. Dr. Qin bought your house. What are you waiting for? Wolf turned back and said to Qin Haodong, Dr. Qin, are you satisfied with the price? Qin Haodong patted him on the shoulder and said, not bad. You're very good at doing things. Sign the contract. Wang Rubing couldn't believe what she was seeing. Qin Haodong called her several times before she came to her senses and handed the contract over. Looking at the 100,000 yuan marked on the contract, the landlord's heart was bleeding. His hand holding the pen had been trembling, and he really couldn't bear to sign it. What are you waiting for? Sign it quickly. Once Wild Wolf finished speaking, he pressed Landlord Six's hand and wrote his name on it. After signing, the landlord's face was already full of tears. No one knew whether it was because he was beaten too hard or because he was distressed about the house. After Wang Rubing signed the contract, she transferred 100,000 yuan to the landlord. From now on, the house belonged to her. After the matter was done, Wolf said with a flattering face, Dr. Qin, do you have any other orders? If not, I won't disturb your rest. Qin Haodong said, that's all. You can go. Tell your cousin not to come here again. If I find him, he will bear the consequences. Dr. Qin, don't worry. If he dares to step into this room again, I will break his legs without you saying anything. After Wild Wolf finished speaking, he left with his gangsters and the landlord, Old Six. Wang Rubing looked at the contract in her hand and couldn't believe it was true. She actually spent 100,000 yuan to buy a house. Shadong, thank you. Don't mention it. This house is a little small. You can live with it first. When you get married, I will give you a big one. Then Qin Haodong called Lin Momo and asked her property company to replace the door of Wang Rubing's room with an advanced anti-theft one. After everything was done, he drove back home. After parking the car, it was almost midnight. He opened the door and went upstairs. The whole building was quiet, without any movement. Where is Hu Shaoxian? Is she asleep or has she left? Qin Haodong began to walk upstairs while thinking. When he entered the living room, he saw no one. He glanced at the kitchen, but it was dark. He listened carefully, but there was still no movement. He came to Hu Xiaoxian's room quietly. The door was not locked. He slowly opened it and looked into the room. There was no one on the bed and the quilt was neatly folded. Is she really gone? Qin Haodong reached for the light switch on the wall. He wanted to turn on the light to see the situation in the room. At this moment, his heart suddenly tightened. No, there was someone behind him. At this time, he appeared behind him silently. It was definitely not a good person, and he felt that this person was definitely a master. Thinking of this, Qin Haodong suddenly turned around and exerted his strength to hit behind him. He had used all his strength in this move, but the person behind him was really powerful. His hands easily resolved all the strength of his palms. But the strange thing was that this person did not take the opportunity to counterattack after resolving Qin Haodong's palm strength. Instead, he let Qin Haodong's hands press on his chest. Feels good. So elastic. This was Qin Haodong's first feeling. His hands happened to be pressed on the two peaks and he couldn't help but pinch them. Little man, you are so bad. You are taking advantage of me. A coquettish voice came from the darkness. Qin Haodong realized that it was Hu Shaoxian who suddenly appeared behind him. Qin Haodong said discontentedly, What are you doing? It's dark and you don't turn on the light. Why are you sneaking around? Don't you know that I'm scared to death? Hu Shaoxian said, Am I sneaking around or are you sneaking around? Why are you sneaking into my room? Qin Haodong said awkwardly, This is my house. Can't I just look around? The house is yours, but the place where your hand is pressing seems to be mine. Can you lower your hand to talk? It's so uncomfortable that it's neither up nor down. Only then did Qin Haodong realize that his hands were still pressed on Hu Xiaoxian's chest. He quickly withdrew his hands in embarrassment. He turned on the light and said, It's so late. Why are you still up? How can I sleep when you haven't come back yet? Hu Shaoxian said and took Qin Haodong's arm. I was afraid that you would be hungry at night, so I made a lot of delicious food. How about you try it? Qin Haodong asked, You haven't had dinner yet, have you? Of course not. I was waiting for you to eat with me. Oh. In fact, you don't have to wait for me. Qin Haodong said so, but he was slightly moved in his heart. He had been wandering in the cultivation world for 500 years, and it was the first time that he had felt that someone was waiting for him at home. I made these dishes specially for you. How could I not wait for you? Hu Shaoxian said and took Qin Haodong to the kitchen. Soon, the 4 hot dishes in the pot were brought to the table. How about you try them? Hu Shaoxian looked at Qin Haodong and said, Her expression was charming, sexy and a little naive. Qin Haodong picked up the chopsticks and picked up a piece of braised pork ribs and put it into his mouth. A strong fragrance instantly occupied his taste buds. It's delicious. It's really delicious. Qin Haodong picked up another piece and said, "You should eat too." Hu Shaoxian moved a chair and sat next to Qin Haodong. She ate and picked up food for him. Qin Haodong felt a little strange, but he also enjoyed the feeling. He asked, "Don't you feel bored staying at home all day?" "Not at all." Hu Shaoxian said, "I practice martial arts and cook at home. Time flies, especially in the evening. I'm so happy when I think I'm going to see you soon." Speaking of this, she held Qin Haodong's arm again and said with a happy face, "I don't know if you have ever loved someone wholeheartedly. This feeling is really good." Although Qin Haodong was a little moved, he still said, "In fact, we are really not suitable for each other." Wu Shaoxian said, "I feel very good. No matter what, I will rely on you for the rest of my life." Qin Haodong really had no choice. After dinner, he went back to his room to rest. The next day, Qin Haodong sent the little fellow to kindergarten and then drove the Porsche 911 to Wang Rubing's downstairs. Today he would send Wang Rubing to register and give her the car by the way. He parked the car in the parking lot and went upstairs to see Wang Rubing. When he opened the door, Wang Rubing was standing in front of the mirror in a black business suit. After seeing Qin Haodong, she asked, "Xiaodong, what do you think? Is it appropriate for me to register in this suit?" "Not bad." Qin Haodong said, "Mature, capable and intellectual beauty. I guess a lot of singles will not be able to sleep after you register." "Don't talk nonsense. Let's go." With that they went out of the door. Wang Rubing habitually took Qin Haodong's arm. As soon as they got downstairs they saw a young man in his 20s. He was wearing a neat suit and looked very handsome. He was waiting at the elevator with a large bouquet of roses. "Good morning, Rubing. These flowers are for you." The young man trotted to Wang Rubing, but suddenly saw Qin Haodong next to her. His face changed and he asked, "Rubing, who is he?" Qin Haodong smiled slightly. It seemed that his sister was really popular. She could meet pursuers every time. "Zhang Hao, I've already told you that we are not suitable for each other. Please don't harass me anymore." Chapter 192. Zhang Hao caught up with her and asked, "Rubing, you haven't told me who he is?" Wang Rubing said coldly, "What does it have to do with you?" Then she pushed Zhang Hao away and continued to walk with Qin Haodong to the parking lot. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Little bean sprout, I didn't know that there were so many people chasing after you." "Nonsense, I'm not a bean sprout now." Qin Haodong said, "Who is this man? Is he also a man with a family?" "No, his name is Zhang Hao. His family runs a private hospital. A few days ago the sanitary bureau went to his hospital to check the work. He saw me and since then he has been chasing after me. He sends me flowers every morning. It's annoying." Qin Haodong said, "Although he is not as handsome as me, he is still acceptable and his family is rich. Isn't he a typical tall, rich and handsome man? Why don't you think about it? You can make your aunt happy if you take him back." Wang Rubing sighed and said, "In fact, he is a good man. He is very sincere and treats me well. But what I can't accept is that everything is measured by money. He thinks that everything can be solved by money. It's too materialistic." Qin Haodong said, "In fact, you can't blame him. Nowadays, many girls say that they would rather cry in a BMW than laugh on a bicycle. It's normal for him to think this way." Wang Rubing curled her lips and said, "Anyway, I can't accept it." Just then, Zhang Hao caught up with her again and stood in front of her. He said excitedly, "Rubing, why did you refuse me? Is it because of this man? What's so good about him? Is he more handsome than me? Or is he richer than me?" Wang Rubing said angrily, "Money? Money? Money? Can you stop talking about money all day? Rubing, he is sincere to you if he is willing to spend money for you. Those who talk sweet words all day are deceiving gigolos. Don't be fooled." Zhang Hao threw the roses in his hand into the trash can next to him, then took out a brand new BMW car key from his pocket and said, "Rubing, look, this is the latest BMW I bought for you. It cost me 700,000 yuan. Don't you believe in my love for you?" After that, he pressed the car key and a red BMW flashed a few times. Coincidentally, this car was parked next to Qin Haodong's Porsche 911. Wang Rubing was about to say something when Qin Haodong pulled her behind him. He came to Zhang Hao, took out the key, opened the Porsche 911 and said, "Dude, this car is not too expensive, but I can buy 3 or 4 of your cars." "What do you mean?" Are you flaunting your wealth to me? Zhang Hao's face turned red. Hong said, let me tell you, this car is a gift from me to my sister. If you want to pursue her, show some sincerity. Maybe other girls love money, but my sister doesn't. After that, Qin Haodong patted Zhang Hao on the shoulder, turned around, got in the Porsche 911 and drove away. Zhang Hao was stunned at first, but after a while, his face showed a burst of ecstasy. It turned out that this man was not a rival in love, but Wang Rubing's brother. Then he thought of what Qin Haodong had just said and seemed to understand something. It seemed that he had gone the wrong way before. After dealing with Wang Rubing's affairs, Qin Haodong took a taxi to Lin's group. Soon after he got in the elevator, the door opened, and Lin Momo came in from outside. What are you doing? Why are you alone? Where are Saber and others? Qin Haodong asked. Although the problem of Lin Pingqiao had been solved, there might be another killer, so Qin Haodong was still very worried about Lin Momo's safety. It's okay, I'm just walking around the group alone, not going out. Lin Momo said, recently there have been a lot of changes in the group. I'm going to have a look at some departments and it's time to move some people. Qin Haodong immediately understood. In the past, Lin Zhigao and Lin Pingqiao had placed a lot of cronies in the group. These people not only did not work hard but also created a lot of obstacles. Now Lin Pingqiao was dead, and Lin Zhigao had become a fool and completely quit the management of the group. Naturally, Lin Momo had to clean up those guys who did not work. Today, she tied her hair into a ponytail and wore only a black ordinary dress, looking like a female college student who had just graduated. Although she was still beautiful and charming, she had completely restrained the temperament of a female president. It was clear that she was going to visit incognito. Qin Haodong said, I'll go with you. Well, okay. Now that their relationship was known by the whole group, Lin Momo did not have to avoid anything. They went out of the elevator together and walked hand in hand to the marketing department. Lin Momo said, I recently looked at the report of the marketing department. The overall situation is good, but there are also some bad situations. Some people don't even have a list and I don't know what they are doing. While talking, they walked into the lobby of the marketing department together. After entering the door, they saw many employees busy nervously. The old employees who knew Lin Momo saluted and said hello, and then went on with their work. After looking around, the overall situation was good, and Lin Momo was satisfied. But at this moment, there was a sound of music in the corner. Qin Haodong and Lin Momo looked in the direction of the sound and saw a male employee in the costume of Lin's group sitting at his desk. His legs were exaggeratedly on the desk. A video software was playing on the desk, and a coquettish woman was stroking her hair and singing coquettishly. Lin Momo's face instantly turned cold when she saw that he was watching the live broadcast during working hours. She and Qin Haodong walked to the desk at the same time. Many people saw this situation, but no one said anything to warn the employee. Many people even showed a look of schadenfreude on their faces. It could be seen that the employee's popularity was not very good. When they came to the man, Qin Haodong was slightly stunned. The man who was watching the video arrogantly turned out to be the grandson of his grandfather, Li Qingtian, and the son of Li Kai, Li Donghai. When he went home last time, he heard from Li Kai that Li Donghai had found a job in Jiangnan City after graduating from college. He didn't expect that Li Donghai had entered Lin's group. At the same time, Li Donghai also saw Qin Haodong. His relaxed expression suddenly changed and he said with a cold face, Why are you here? Why are you here? Li Donghai had been bullying Qin Haodong since he was a child, relying on the love of Li Kai and his wife. He called Qin Haodong a wild child all day long. Naturally, Qin Haodong didn't like him at all. He sneered and said, You can come here, why can't I? You. Can you compare with me? Who am I? Who are you? I'm a formal employee of Lin's group. Li Donghai said and pointed to the employee card on his chest. He looked very proud. He had a sense of superiority in front of Qin Haodong since he was a child and it was the same now. At this time he saw Lin Momo next to Qin Haodong. His pupils suddenly shrank. He had never seen such a beautiful woman in his life. Even the female stars on TV were not so beautiful. This guy had not been in Lin's group for a long time, and he didn't do proper work all day so he didn't know Lin Momo. He took his legs off the table and said to Qin Haodong, I heard from my father that you went back to cheat my grandfather's house a few days ago, and now you've cheated such a beautiful woman. You're really something. You can cheat anything. Lin Momo didn't rush to speak when she saw that Li Donghai knew Qin Haodong. Now that he was insulting Qin Haodong, she said unhappily, Can you have some manners? I'm Haodong's girlfriend. How can you say I cheated? His girlfriend? A strong sense of jealousy flashed in Li Donghai's eyes. He had looked down on Qin Haodong ever since he was a child. Qin Haodong was an orphan, and he had to show his superiority in everything. But now, Qin Haodong had found such a beautiful girlfriend, and he had to rely on an old woman to make a living. The sharp contrast made him feel very uncomfortable. He looked at Lin Momo and said harshly, "What girlfriend? I think she's a girl from a karaoke bar. She's had enough of playing with men outside and wants to change. That's why she found such a poor boy to take over her." After that, the whole hall of the marketing department of Lin's group suddenly became quiet. No one spoke, no one moved. Some people even slowed down the rhythm of their breathing. Li Donghai didn't realize these changes. He had to admit that jealousy was a terrible emotion. Many times it could make people lose control of their emotions. He was in such a situation now. He instinctively thought that Qin Haodong and Lin Momo were definitely not from Lin's group, because they didn't wear employee cards on their chests. Since they were not from Lin's group, it was not a big problem to say a few sarcastic words. He had seen it carefully enough, but he didn't know that there were two people in the whole Lin's group who didn't wear employee cards. One was Lin Momo and the other was Qin Haodong. Lin Momo was the president of the group, needless to say, and Qin Haodong was Lin Momo's public boyfriend. Even the major shareholder, Zhao Zhongchen, was beaten by him. He was definitely a transcendent existence in the group, and no one dared to check his employee card. Li Donghai didn't think much of it, but the other employees were cursing in their hearts. This newcomer could do whatever he wanted just because he had a little background in Lin's group. On weekdays when others were working, he sat there playing games and watching live broadcast. That was okay. But today this idiot said in public that his president was a good girl. It was simply the rhythm of death. Qin Haodong almost spat. Although he knew that Li Donghai was a little stupid, he didn't expect that he was so stupid. To this extent he was simply a fighting idiot. Lin Momo's face suddenly became gloomy. She looked at Li Donghai coldly and said, "What did you just say? Say it again." At this time, Chao Yang, the head of the marketing department, heard the news and hurried over. He happened to hear what Li Donghai had just said. Now seeing this scene, he stood aside and didn't dare to say anything. Lin Momo had always been known for being cold and domineering. He couldn't think of any reason for this stupid guy to continue to survive in the group. When everyone was mourning for Li Donghai, he said something shocking. "What's wrong? Are you still not convinced? I've seen a lot of women like you. Even if you are a good girl, I can see it. Don't pretend in front of me." In fact, Li Donghai was a college graduate. He was not as stupid as he was now. Today, seeing that Qin Haodong had such a beautiful girlfriend, he was burning with jealousy, so he desperately slandered Lin Momo. Chao Yang had covered his eyes with his hands. It was the first time for him to see such a stupid trick. Qin Haodong glanced at Li Donghai and said with pity, "Go quickly. Don't be stupid here." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.